Welcome everybody to Chess Dojo's coverage of the American Open, the American Cup. Flubbed the start. So this tournament here is fantastic, American Cup. We have an insane field of players here for this event, and we're going to be covering it almost in its entirety. We're going to be skipping the rounds on Saturday and Sunday, tomorrow and the day after, unless Kostya or Jesse hop in for some reason on those days. But I'm going to be covering every other round at least. So today and then next week, Monday through Friday and Saturday. Yeah, not the American Open, the American Cup. And right here you can see the participant list in one section. There's only one player under 2,700. The U.S. has insane numbers of super GMs, and Sevian is amazing. This guy should definitely be able to get back over 2,700. Yeah, Michiko, this is now perhaps the best tournament in the U.S. of the year. It's equivalent to the U.S. championships approximately, and then it's a matter of taste, you know, which kind of format you like better. The U.S. championships will generally have 12 players instead of 8 per section, but they managed to get all the best players to this tournament. I think Nakamura skipped the U.S. championship last year, but they managed to even get him. And when you look in the American Cup Group B, if I can pull that up, you'll see that they got a fantastic field. Current, let me put in American. You'll see that they got an incredible field here as well. They managed to get Jennifer Yu, the current U.S. champion, Irina Krush, 8-time U.S. champion, Zatonsky, 3-time U.S. champion. They even got Nazi Paikidze to come out of semi-retirement or very occasional play. She's a former U.S. champion. And the tournament is so sick that Alice Lee is one of the lowest rated by FIDE ratings. She's got to be in there. She's our next superstar for the U.S., one of the most promising juniors we've got. She's absolutely insanely good. And will continue to improve. Such a good person, you can already say, as a kid. Just incredible character strength. Definitely a champion. So we're gonna have. Oh, I should have opened both instead of closing one. Events. Sorry about that. Otherwise, it's harder to go back and forth between the games. So they've got the most incredible possible fields here for both the A section and the B section, which are very similar to the U.S. Championship and the U.S. Women's Championships. I think they basically even got one more top player in each group than they managed to get in the U.S. Championship last year. The format is original. It's 2-game matches, but then you get to lose 2 matches. It's double elimination. So losing 1 match is not necessarily the end of is not the end of the tournament period. You keep going from there. So that's a very cool format where it doesn't depend on, who gives up draws to who or beats who. It's very much like your result, your tournament destiny is always in your own hands. Last but not least. Yeah, I think the format like that is really cool. I love it. So to me, I would say, for me personally, this tournament would probably edge out the U.S. Championship as the most exciting and important tournament in the U.S. of the year. And I can imagine that other people would choose, their taste would slightly turn in the other direction, but it would be a close call. All right, so let's see. I don't see any moves in any of the games yet, though the tournament round I expected would have started 25 minutes ago. Maybe they've got a half-hour delay on the games, but that's good because our last show ran long. This gave us time to get set up better. Let's see, what's it gonna look like if I open up a game? It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be hard to pick which games to follow today because I won't be able to follow all 8 matches. Later on, once a few people are eliminated, it'll get a little bit easier. From that perspective of focus and choosing what to look at. Let's try and make this a little bit. Let's just work on this here for a minute. So probably do a view that will look like this. Could make the board slightly bigger if I cut out some of the gray in between the board and the view. Hikaru's playing in the tournament, Asan, yeah. And he has some guest hosts covering it on their stream. Hans Niemann is not playing in the tournament, and it's notable that by rating he would be in the top 8 Americans right now, and he has probably not been invited because the people running the St. Louis Chess Club probably are convinced that he is a cheater and therefore didn't want him at their event, and probably regret having invited him to the Sinkfield Cup. That's my guessing interpretation of it. Let me try cheating this just a little bit and see what you think. If I do it like this and I add a window capture, player sidebar, and go here, and then use this to get a slightly more succinct clip of the players' faces and clocks. I can do this, put it off to the side here, and then I can make our board just a little bit bigger. And it's nice to have a big board, right? So maybe we could do it like that, get just a little bit more board for our buck. I think I'll do that. I don't know if they concluded whether or not he cheated at their tournament in any conclusive way, but oh, is that right, M. Norris? I didn't know that originally Xiang was in the tournament and dropped out, but obviously Xiang is another player who would belong here, and he's somebody that the St. Louis club seems to like, I would say. So I would definitely have expected him to get an invitation. No, Ken. We know that Hans is currently ranked higher than Jeffrey and Sam. Hans is currently higher rated than either of them. Yeah. Yeah, even if they concluded he didn't cheat in their tournament, they may have... maybe they didn't know that he had cheated before online, and because of the Sinkfield incident, they found out that he cheated online, and for them, that was enough that they didn't invite him back or whatever. I don't know the details, but like by rating, he would be here. So I would say it's clear that somebody at... well, we don't know if he was invited and declined, but I would guess that the most likely thing is that someone or some people at St. Louis decided that they didn't want him there. Yeah. Okay, so let's open up some other games just to sort of be ready as this gets started. American Cup Group A and B. Oh, that's true. Hans also has a lawsuit against Hikaru. That's a bit much for them to, yeah, play in a tournament together and stuff with that kind of tension. Yeah, 2700 chess is correct, Kyle. Let me just close some of my windows because we're about to have a lot of them. I've got this game over here that I've had open for a really long time, playing over and over it to study, but we'll say that's enough for now. Close my classroom down. Close the classroom down. Okay, and now we've just got American Cup, and we can just open up games here. So, if folks have players that they really want to watch today, let me know who, because I'm not going to be able to watch all the games. But once I've started following a game, if the game is interesting, I will continue following that game. So people who come in an hour aren't just going to say, my favorite is Paikidza, switch to the Paikidza game. You guys can pick now which games you would like to see the most, right? So so let me know now if there are particular matchups you're most excited to see. We've got Lee versus Porkashian, Paikidza versus Zatonsky. I'll show you guys the options. Abrahamian versus Crush. Oh man, they've been playing each other forever. And Nemtsova versus Tohir-Janova. Any favorite matchup here for you all? Okay, Michiko interested in Robson versus Caruana, which happens randomly to be the only one that I already opened up. Cartier wants to see Lasker versus Kraai. I'm going to open one up for me while you guys are picking. Any actual Americans at this tournament, Oliver Link? Yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, do you mean Native Americans? What? I guess I can't assume what you mean by Americans. I guess I can't assume that. But yeah, there's a lot of Americans playing in the tournament. The U.S. used to have a lot of its top players were immigrants ever since the Soviet Union fell. But by many people's estimations, those players would have become American once they were living here. But if you mean Native Americans, I don't think there are any Native Americans in this tournament. Let's follow a game which doesn't have too much opening theory. Yeah, we could look around and see which games don't have opening, have like less normal openings, and which are going to be weirder. Oh, Alice Lee has played f3, which is a very, very sharp line against the Nimzo. Aronian Dominguez, that looks like opening theory. Nakamura versus Sevian looks like a Berlin. Or did Sevian play a6 and then Naka played d3, so he just chose to play a closed Rui. Caruana Robson are playing opening theory. Shanklin and So always play opening theory, playing a Berlin defense. They're going to play Berlins back and forth with both sides. Oh no, Sam's playing the bishop c5 thing. The bishop c5 thing. Whatever that's called. Maybe an Arkhangelsk or something of that sort. Yeah, Zonderbuck. They've got each game separated as if for each match, so there isn't like a way to make a nice layout where you see all of them. But okay, we had somebody ask for Zatonsky and somebody asked for a position with less opening theory, so that's going to be this game here. D4, C5 is going to hit both of those requirements. And now I have 4 matches selected so far. I've got Fabi versus Ray, Alice versus Prokashyan, Wesley and Sam, and Zatonsky and Paikidze. I think that could be pretty good. That's half the games. That could make for a good round today. Every now and then I'll cast an eye around and see if there's anything else thrilling happening. Zatonsky taking a quick start on getting low on time here by thinking on her second move. Wow. Thank you, Oliver. I think it's a really great topic. You know, sometimes we have some chatty drama kind of talks, but I like to also have some chess-based talks, you know, and so actually getting into some actual chess games, some suggestions of stuff to go check out, right? Books or cool games or things like that, I think is really fun. And I had so much fun preparing for this show that I can assure you that anybody who's inspired by the show to go check out some of those games will be amply rewarded, right? You're going to love it. So, okay, the usual response here would be D5, also called the only move by Chess Lover. But in theory, you know, you can play C3 or E3 as white and you don't lose the game, you just lose your chance to get an opening advantage pretty much. Okay, yeah, so that's what Chess Lover's saying as well. So you could play C3 or E3, but the position might already basically be equal in 2 moves if you do that. And if you play D5, there's a good chance you have the advantage. But you see, Anna is kind of complication shy and plays one of those simpler moves to defend the D4 pawn. By playing E3, she may hope to get eventually sort of a Tarrasch, like a semi-Tarrasch kind of opening. Like she might be looking to do something like here, 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 here. These are lines where actually white could still get a small opening advantage, possibly. Although fairly acceptable for black, probably from this like quick E3 move order. I'm not sure, but that might be what she's looking to do. Yeah. So, Oliver has a question, which we might as well just address for once. I think, Oliver, you're asking about Nazi Paikidze's first name, Nazi, which she's from Georgia originally. And the name, the word, it's the word for gentle in Georgian. So that's the idea of the name that her parents gave her, was to name her Gentle, which is a very sweet sentiment, right? Like some people have names like, you know, Hope or things like that. So, oh, really? Is Naka's position out of theory? Should we add that game for us? Oh, C4 in the Rui? I've seen that. But okay, we might add that game. Let's see where other things are going. So F3, D5, A3. And again, you can see pretty immediately who correctly predicted the opening and who didn't, right? If you click around at the beginning of a round. very, very quickly. Right, so Alice correctly predicted the Nimzo, or at least had recently updated what she wanted to play against the Nimzo, even if it were for a different opponent. So when Prokashyan played the Nimzo, she immediately played f3 and a3, but we can see that Prokashyan, by thinking, that means she had not planned. She thought about d5 last move. She's thinking again after a3, where, as Chess Lover would say, there's only one move. You take the knight if someone spends a tempo on a3 here. But she's considering retreating and letting white just play e4. So that shows that Prokashyan had not anticipated that Alice would play, I don't know what to call this, same-ish variation, basically. I don't know if when you play f3 before a3, it changes the name of it or whatever, but basically, you know, we can tell that Prokashyan probably did not expect Alice to play this line against her Nimzo. So she was slightly surprised, and she's thinking, right? Similarly, we could see that Zatonsky was surprised by c5, had a deep thought about e3, and now she's thinking about her next move as well. Let's check Wesley and Sam. Sam had planned to play bishop c5 instead of his normal Berlin. Sam has been playing basically Berlin. And Najdorf, of course, but and Kahn and some other Sicilians. But when playing e5, he's basically just played the Berlin, period, for a long time. So, so we can tell that Sam planned to play bishop c5 against the Berlin, and Wesley is the one using time. He did not predict that Sam would play the Neo-Arkhangelsk, or whatever this bishop c5 defense is. Of course, Wesley will still know something about this opening, but he's having to go into his mental database and pick over the board what line he wants to play against it, right? Wesley's at a level where he's got something at all times for anything. I'm rooting for Alice as well, Kyle. I have to. What is the d4 c5 opening called? I don't even know. I mean, it can lead to basically different versions of the Benoni. So you can get an old Benoni or a Czech Benoni, I think, are two of the possible variations you can get. Since white didn't even play d5, it won't actually be a Benoni. It's probably going to transpose to some kind of semi-Tarrasch, is my guess of where they're going to go with this game. I'm guessing that eventually this knight will be on f3, and these pawns will go to e6 and d5, and Anna will play c4. But it's possible that she'll play, you know, a Colley system, very, very passive, or like a Pillsbury Colley with b3, bishop b2. She might do something else. You know, she's spending a lot of time and obviously not studying tons of openings recently in this phase of her life, right? So, should it be named as a gambit? No, not really, because you can't take this pawn and hold on to it as white. With one move, knight a6, black can surround and win back the pawn. Also, queen a5 achieves the same goal. So it would only be a gambit if black plays some line where they don't recapture it, right? So if black played like b6, pawn takes, bishop b7, knight f3, pawn takes. Oh, sorry. Knight f6, I have to play more moves for black. If you play something like this, then you can call this a gambit. But until black chooses not to recapture the pawn, it wouldn't be a gambit because black can capture the pawn at will. Okay, knight f3 was played and d5, so I'm correctly predicting what these players are going towards. It's just Anna who's having a little trouble deciding about it. But it's like whenever I play games and Jesse's watching and he says, we already know what David's going to do. Yeah, the Queen's Gambit, I don't know if that should be called a gambit either, Oliver Link, but that's a very good point. That's called the Queen a gambit, and it's exactly the same situation. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a very good point. Me personally, I don't consider the Queen's Gambit a gambit. I just call it the Queen's Gambit because that's how people recognize what I'm talking about. All right, let's see what's happening with Alice. Okay, bishop takes c3. I do think that was the only reasonable move. I do know that there are variations of the Nimzo where by the time white plays a3, you can retreat your bishop, but I think almost all of them would be positions where white can't just advance e4 immediately. I think, well, let me put it this way. I think any variation of the Nimzo with e3, you can consider retreating after a3 because your opponent's locked in this bishop and they haven't played e4 in one move. So I think, yeah, I feel like almost every variation of the e3 Nimzo you could retreat if you want to. But here, f3, d5, a3, now I think you got to take pretty much to be consistent there. And in the d5 line, you need to then keep fighting for the center because you don't want to allow white to just play bishop g5 and e3 and then develop cleanly from there with the latent bishop pair. I think will far outweigh white's slightly messed up pawns. So I think you have to fight pretty sharply. With this move, you know, bishop g5, queen a5 is going to leave behind weaknesses and issues. So cd5 is normal. Here black can take with the knight or the pawn, I believe, according to theory. Queen d5, e4 does not look good to me, so I think knight or pawn could make sense. Prokashyin now speeding up, taking with the e-pawn, showing that she, you know, that she has some knowledge or comfort of this position now that she's adjusted to what she wants to do against Alice. So, again, I think in both this game and the So Shanklin game, it's not that the player who's been surprised, so to speak, by the opponent's opening choice knows nothing about their opening. You've got a general knowledge of your own openings, right? And neither Alice nor Sam played some outrageous opening that no one would ever play. You know, they didn't play some obscure line of the modern or some queen b6 move in the Sicilian really early where you really have to say, like, gosh, I don't remember at all what you're supposed to do about this and I have to figure it out. But it's a situation where, okay, you didn't prepare specifically. Your opponent obviously did. You take some time to collect yourself. Think, what might they have planned? You know, what games of mine have I played in this variation in the past that they might have looked at that made them want to play this line? And you just kind of double check where you're at. What do you want to do? What do you see coming? So that's normal. It doesn't mean that at this level they don't know anything about their own opening. Okay, so e3 quickly from Alice, and now after castles, she's taking her first think of the game. So Prokashyin can breathe her first sigh of relief, like, okay, now we're on even footing. It's not a 20-move prepared variation. Really, Case Money? You're right. It showed Jennifer Yu on the participant list, but she's not in any of these matches. That's too bad. I wanted to see the U.S. champion playing. Sure, man, with Head of Dog, you can ask about my opening preparation. See how this game's going. Oh, this is a fascinating position that Fabi has created here against Ray. I feel like White's the one who did a lot of the creative work here. Ray's obviously the person that I root for, so I'm just very objective in the chess evaluations I try and give. All right, you should be able to post your link now, Renga. Knight E1, wow. You know, I don't think I've ever seen the Knight C2 maneuver in the Catalan. And as many of you may know, the Catalan's a pretty popular opening at GM level. Yeah, that's new to me. That's new to me. So he takes when the c-pawn can't take back. Raise queenside gets all tangled up. And then this knight goes to c3. What? That's crazy. Oh, look at Fabi's time, 1 hour and 34. An hour and 34. So this is some kind of cooking. He managed to predict that Ray would play this early b5 line. I mean, I have to say the position already looks great for white to me. 3 isolated pawns do not look good enough, but I know there are weird dynamic lines now where black takes on weak pawns against the queen's gambits and then does fine, like post a knight on d5, play c5 at some point, trade off white's center, and black doesn't care. And then h4. So he set up his center. He's not going to attack Ray's weak pawns. He's just damaged them. Maybe just to say, ha, you're damaged. And now he's going to go poke the king. He's going to be able to drive the pawn to h5. It'll get blocked at h6 probably. And then he could threaten sacks on h6. Or he could go knight e3 to g4 to threaten sacks on h6. From this position, you could also try and play with bishop g5. But I think he'll drive the pawn. Because I think once this one's on h6, he's got ways to knight e3, g4, and go after it. Yeah. I feel like he's going to push the h-pawn another time here. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Dearborn. We can go have a look. Knight e1, queen d4, knight c2, attacking the queen and the bishop. Queen here, presumably, right? Yeah, I mean, it feels risky, but it's good to have a look and see if we can understand it. Oh wait, one other thing about this. Sorry, I know knight c2. It's obvious, like hitting all these pieces, but there's this move, right? And black can't recapture. And, you know, knight c2 still hanging over black. And this knight, you're going to need to fight that knight out. So you need to set up a knight on d5 here, or you're going to be busted, I guess. Oh, now there's also like rook a4 and queen a4 and stuff. I think it would be this RD born. White's got back one of their 2 pawns, so it's a 1-pawn sack as before. And there's considerable discoordination of Black's queenside. So I think this would probably be fine. Ray's probably going to have a deep think about this position here with h4. D takes c5, e6, c4, bishop c5, knight c3. And we've got a semi-Tarrasch. As predicted, Paikidze lots of time on the clock. Good for her. Shankland, still an opening theory. Wesley thought more than 10 minutes on d3. Sam just plays b4. Let me just click through these moves real quick so I can see, just in case I ever want to play this opening. d6 here. a4, preemptive bishop a7. I feel like long ago rook b8 was a move in these positions, but I've seen bishop a7 as well. d3, so he doesn't trust d4, bishop g4, and being able to hold the d4 square. So Wesley plays d3, and now Sam plays b4. Interesting. Even though he sort of like defended the a takes b5 threat, he now plays b4 anyway when it seems he doesn't need to. Doesn't that seem like a mildly surprising move? Given that he's dealt with this, and you would think that he would want a castle and maybe put the bishop here. Yeah, the Rui is perhaps the most complex opening in the world. I don't know, it's one of the most impossible for me of all openings to learn or play. What? Hey, pups. Ça va? Quoi? Oh.
I'll go see what I have.
Here's my wallet. It might have something in it.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't even know how much, so.
Yeah.
No.
Is the semi-Tarrasch the best and safest way to draw against d4? I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that question. Let me just close the door. No, we don't share a name, Charlie. So b4, a5. Very, very common that when black plays b4, white advances a5 in the Rui. I don't exactly know why. One reason would be maybe to keep these pawns from joining. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a possible reason. And another is to put the bishop on a4 again and pressure the knight. So, but he's finally got to a point where Shanky's got to think about what he's doing. So that's good. Sorry, what's going on with these messages? A5. So, basic move for Shanky would be to castle. Oh, the Rui is so hard, folks. So hard. What do you want me to show about the semi-Tarrasch? Like here or something? You okay, Papa? Did you want to go out again? What's up? Yeah, okay. I mean, there's many move orders to the semi-Tarrasch, but I think the defining feature of the semi-Tarrasch is when white takes on d5, black takes with the knight instead of the pawn. Right? So a more traditional move order would be something like this. And I think the semi-Tarrasch would be taking with the knight instead of the e-pawn. So then you get positions like this. This is kind of one defining line of the semi-Tarrasch. White now also plays lines like, you know, rook b1 to stop bishop b4 or h3 to be really weirdly fan. I don't think they play h3 here. Bishop b5 I've seen. Yeah. So, yeah, this opening's been seen a lot lately. Also, sometimes white will play knight f3 first here, and then black will play c5, takes, and yeah, now there's also lines like this, which I think may fall within the semi-Tarrasch right now. So, yeah, not my expertise. Not my expertise. Okay. So looking at this, Satansky wants to play b4, bishop b2, recapture on c4 in one move, maybe trade queens, and play this kind of symmetrical queen's gambit position that we talked about today that, you know, Akiba Rubinstein was one of the founding understanders of those positions, one of the people who showed us a bunch of the right squares to put the pieces on and techniques and tactics associated with these positions. It makes sense. She's looking to maybe get a decent position. When she took on c5, black had not yet moved the bishop, though. So Paikidze does have kind of a maximum position for black as well up to this point. And if she thinks that Anna's never really threatening to take on d5, then she can wait on taking on c4. If she thinks that Anna does not want to play an isolated queen pawn position, then she could just play knight c6 and just sort of never take here herself, I guess. So, okay, Wesley and Sam. Sam's now played rook b8. Well, that makes sense. That's the file most likely to open up. I mean, there were lots of moves that made sense. Rook b8 and castles were both among them. Bishop a4. I guess you'll just have to defend this knight. It's a real question where to put this bishop. I think generally you don't want to go to g4 against d3, e4. Trading here doesn't look great. He could put it on d7, but it gets in the way of some other maneuvers. He could put it on b7 and it blocks the rook, but keeps this pawn defended. Oh yeah, if you bring the bishop any other direction, white has bishop c4. So I don't think on your own, like if white just did some random move, I don't think on your own you would put the bishop over here because you just sort of have to go back. Caruana has the stereotype of memorizing the most lines. There was a period of time where Caruana's opening preps seem to be, the best or equal to the best in the world, for sure. A lot of emphasis was put on it. Players at that level are always kind of good all around, but then there are little differences and subtle differences between their styles and different things they're good or bad at. Generally, you have to be within a stone's throw of them. Like, you have to be 2,700 or something to really understand the differences between players like, Caruana and Ding and Nepo. Like, it's very hard from my distance to try to accurately assess that. My feeling on Fabi was that it was true that he had really good opening prep. Felt like he had a very calculation-based approach to chess and was a very strong calculator. Shanklin is also a very prepped player. Yeah, M. Norris. As far as the California Unicorn design and making a new shirt, I'm not sure. Satisficing moves. I have not discussed that recently with Kostya. I have been honestly looking at chess games every single time I have a free minute. I have a kid home sick, and I have a baby who's not sleeping through the nights well right now. So it's a little bit of a struggle for me to get through things, but every moment I've had free, I've been looking at games, either miniatures for the miniature project or best games of best players of history for our dojo training plan, and of course, as you've seen, it comes up in the dojo talks podcasts. But it's really, we're doing the work primarily to make the training program as good as possible. I don't think we emphasized that so much when we did the shows. It may seem like it's just like a really cool topic and we just want to do dojo talks, but the degree of effort and research and analysis that we've all put into it is maybe goes slightly beyond what we might randomly do for a podcast. We're dead serious about it because we're trying to be very perfectionist and deliberate about every single game that we choose to tell people to study and memorize. There's a whole different degree of detail-oriented polish into what we're putting for the next update of the dojo training program. Right, what's the difference between a GM and a super GM? I think everyone over 2,700 is a super GM. I think that's the general demarcation point, Oliver. But, somebody who's been 2,701 once and then dropped back to 2,690, I guess it would be sort of a discussion. But somebody who's always over 2,700 would definitely be a super GM, even if they're only 2 points above it. But what differentiates them? It's different from player to player. I mean, the only super GM... Well, I don't know many super GMs super well. For Shanklin, what pushed him from 2,600 to 2,700 was improving his calculation. He was already doing really good serious opening prep. By 2,600, that wasn't enough on its own. So for him, it was improving his calculation. But I think some other people have made 2,700 without being as good at calculating as Sam, right? So they did it with something else. So it depends on different people. Ray Robson was already an amazing calculator before he hit 2,700, and what brought him to 2,700 was something different, for example. Ray reached 2,700 by achieving a new degree of maturity as both a person and a chess player. He just kind of grew up a little bit and got a little bit better from it. Right? So, some kind of shift made him become a better defender, a better user of his time. One of his Achilles heels before was getting into really bad time trouble. He's relatively amazing at seeing tactics fast. Well, relatively amazing. He's just straight up one of the most amazing at playing with a minute on his clock and seeing tactics super fast. But it was still an irresponsibility that did have some cost against other top GMs. So he just matured in a way which manifested in some new openings and control over his clock and time management, and maybe some other factors as well, because again, they're too good for me to truly judge. But that maturity and whatever the different benefits of it were, that maturity popped him right over 2,700. Would I call Van Foreest a super GM? I mean, he's somebody who's right on the border, right? It's not clear, Ken. I think he crossed 2,700 for a moment, and so I probably would say yes. But, I mean, he's somebody where I can see that it's kind of a borderline case. Yeah, because super GM shouldn't just be the top 10. The top 10 would be referred to as basically like candidates. That's how I kind of think of it. Like people who could compete for the world championship is kind of like the top 10. Right? And super GMs would be like a slightly bigger group, like the top 40 or 50 players, or, you know, anybody who plays better than Spassky did or something like that, you know? And winning Wake on Zay, like if you win a super tournament, that's probably like a pretty good sign that you should be a super GM, but I could see that not 100% of people would agree with me. And now, obviously, for whatever title you'd have, you would have people who'd be border cases, right? Like you'll have somebody who's the best IM who's not a GM, like somebody who's rated either 2499 with 3 norms or 2501 and they've got 2 norms, or their third norm was like disqualified and they never got the third norm, and like, you know, would you consider that person like a GM? Like it's very specifically defined for IM and GM and not for super GM, but there's always going to be people on the border of whatever you draw, right? And so you're coming up with good examples of Miroshnichenko and Fressinet, like who's better and by how much and who's a super GM, you know. But Miroshnichenko's a really good player. He managed to beat me down when I was the most on fire I've ever been, pretty much. I was having, you know, a godly week, and my godly week was still couldn't quite get him. He gave me a good beating. I appreciated it. Okay. Let's get back to our actual games. Instead of an impromptu dojo talks about who is or isn't a super GM, in which we discuss every single person at the borderline. There is Eigen. That's somebody who just doesn't want the titles. They have some kind of dispute with FIDE, but they're truly a GM, and their name is Sviridov. Okay, so Paikidze plays a5 to stop the b4 plan, and now Zatonsky says, okay, we'll play an IQP position where you've got this weird hole on b5. That makes sense. G2 knight c6. Yeah, makes sense from Anna. I mean, she's still gonna have to, I guess, play b3, bishop b2. Should be fine. And Nazi looks like she wants to play d4, right, and liquidate the IQP. That would be my guess of what to do. You might wait for your opponent to play b3 as long as you've got useful developing moves first. So an important choice is whether Anna wants to play knight b5 and try and prevent d4 before castling. Yeah, probably knight b5. Well, Deborn, adding a bar would just give people the false impression that they understand something. It wouldn't actually allow us to understand anything. Right? Pretty much, yes, maybe. Knight c6. Knight, yeah, I think you should probably go knight b5 for white here. Leave black with the IQP. Looks like a pretty clear decision to me. Do-de-do-de-do-de-do. Oh my god. Oh god. I'm sorry, guys. I just went to tweet that we were covering the American Cup and that our show was live, and somebody had sent me this on Twitter. I can't believe it. Just click the link, seriously. I'm not like a big, you know, I'm not a big, you know, memes and emotes and links and social medias kind of person, but that's amazing. Oh my god. It's gotta be his face after I said something, right? That's gotta be like the response to something that I said. Oh god. Oh god. How can one face make you laugh for 3 hours? Oh my goodness. I had to close it. I would have just kept laughing for the rest of the day. I don't think I would have been able to comment one more move. Castles. Okay, she doesn't care about d4 at the moment. Okay, if Nazi goes d4, which she hasn't, this is the live position here. If she goes d4, takes, you know, bishop somewhere, and the position's about equal. Maybe you could try to bother black like this a little bit, but it shouldn't be a big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal. So d4, I don't think is going to be a big deal for either player. It should be acceptable. Black doesn't have to play it. Black can play it. I do think that if black plays a move like, you know, bishop g4, bishop e6, bishop f5, right? Like a keeping the tension a little bit longer move. I do think that then white should definitely go for knight b5. I don't think that you want to play a move like b3 and then just simplify and not use the bishop this way. It may be a minute detail, like a 1/10 of a pawn or less detail, and it may just not matter. But that is my tiny little positional inkling. Okay. Wesley and Shanky. We get the Nordovik. There we go, Nordovik. Getting some Nordovik here. And, I think Sam might just want to trade here on c3. Because if knight takes, you can go bishop g4, and boom. To me, that's happy times. So, you know, get white to go here. You're the one who's got the file, right? And then, I don't know, maybe go bishop e6. And you can play a double Nordovik, right? Maybe play this position as Sam. To me, it looks fine. It looks stable for black. Obviously, I'm going to be wrong. By the way, folks, if you don't know, there's an important axiom about the Ruy Lopez. Whatever I suggest about the Ruy Lopez is always wrong, except if I try to use what I say about the Ruy Lopez in order to determine what's wrong, and therefore I conclude that something else is right, then I will be wrong about the reasoning that made me think that the wrong thing was wrong and the wrong thing was right. So, anyway, so everything I'm saying is wrong when we look at this game, right? But with that out of the way, I'm going to keep saying things as if I'm right and as if I think them, but you guys know they're wrong. Okay? So here's what I'm thinking. The knight is bothering white on a5. The knight can remain stable. It's not in the way of the bishop. That's why I traded that stupid light squared bishop, was just because I didn't want this knight getting in the way of it. And from here, you know, the f file is reasonable. We could use the knight h5 to f4 plan. If white plays d4, which they will, I'm inclined to sort of trade once. And then, uh-oh, my knight's not stable anymore. What am I doing? What am I doing? My position is getting bad. e5 takes, fancy move, hitting the rook in order to outpost a piece on e5. Positionally, that would be good, but I've blundered my unstable knight on purpose. Yeah, okay, Wesley would definitely play d4. That's wrong as well, folks, right? He would definitely play d4. And that actually messes Sam up a little bit because Sam doesn't want pressure on this knight on this file. But I don't know if he's well placed to accept doubled pawns here. Oh! If he doesn't trade himself, then this pawn takes e5, knight g4 is not yet a threat here. So he could simply move the queen in this position. How about this? I want to go queen b8 and maybe knight g4. Am I blundering anything? Rook e2 is reasonable, yeah. And I want to go here. Being very loose with my goose. Oh God, I hope I'm okay here. What am I doing? White's got to develop the knight. That's the one thing I had going for me, was their knight wasn't out yet. Oh wait. Let's play some fancier stuff. Here. Let's get fancy. Oh my God, I'm going to be a blunderpants if I get fancy. Queen b5. Oops. Damn it. Well, I sure know how to blunder. Oh, maybe we can keep this knight tied up in some way. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it. If you come this way, the rook's hanging. If you come this way, then we go here. I'm doing something. I'm doing something. Hey, I got so active. I'm okay. I'm okay. I can take double isolated pawns like this. Super active. What a way to play. Bishop e6 from Shankland. Almost what I said. I said trade while white can't put the knight there and then play bishop e6. But I also think there's a possibility for white to go bishop a4. But is Shankland ready for takes and d4 here? Takes is played. Okay. I think Wesley's going to play d4. I think Sam's going to recapture. Wait, I'm going to get one thing right. He's going to recapture. He did. Und now d4. Beep. Beep, beep, beep. All right, so he's going to post the knight on c4 to defend a5. Nothing special. That's a great one, RD Born. I can assign an ELO rating to each historical player. Morphy 2100, Steinitz 2250, Lasker 2500, Kappa and Alyekhin 2550, Botvinnik 2600. There you go. It's done. And then all the other players, just whatever their ELO was. That was quick. Will Magnus become historic after April? Oh, a historic world champion? Yeah. I guess one thing is this rook could go on b5 in these lines, couldn't it? Is there anything against that? Any problem with doing that? No. Looks like you could do that if you wanted to. Like rook b5, knight c4, queen b8 if you wanted to. Okay, Dearborn, fair. 2630. Whatever. At some point, people just have ratings, right? And then their ratings are fairly accurate. The top players in like the 50s and 60s were into the 2600s, which I think is fair. Whatever their ratings are reasonably accurate. Alyekhin and Capablanca were probably, you know, 50 to 75 points weaker than the top players in the 50s and 60s. Ratings can inflate or deflate. They can do either. Right now they're in a period of deflation, actually. But they've been mostly, I think they've actually been mostly consistent. Okay, let's check some of our other positions. Alice Lee, bishop d3, b6, knight e2, bishop a6, castles, takes, and then tries to stop e4. Black has comfortably equalized. Good on Pruess. Her play is, yeah, just kind of textbook this game. I'm not sure I like knight bd7, though. I feel like in this position, yeah, I think here she maybe slips up slightly. Like she's sort of equalized, but now it's sort of like going to be an equalish but technical position, and it seems she slightly slips up here. And now I feel like there might be some mild pull for white, very tiny. E4. Yeah, okay, what? It's a good question for myself as I'm hoping to get a little better at the Nimzo. What would I play here for black? Yeah, the rating systems do get changed a little bit here and there. Robin rounds the bases. Every now and then they do get changed a little bit. C4. So, what would I do? How do I feel about getting an isolated C pawn? I think that's a big part of the question. Okay, here's my instinct, is that I just want to develop this piece to the strongest square I can. Then white could do this and push e4, huh? Yeah, it feels like I missed this move here. Yeah, that looks good for white. Okay, so basically, folks, whichever way I recapture now, I think white can play e4, kick the queen, and then play d5, or if it's a knight on d5, kick the knight and then push d5. In either case, with like a huge advantage for white, actually. So whatever I came up with here was really, really bad. So that's why she took. Okay, because that was truly a threat. So the only other way to stop that threat would be to make this trade first. But then we've already let the white knight get here, which is what I didn't really want to do. Okay, so what did Pruess do? She traded, then played here, and then traded. And now the knight didn't take, but the queen did. So there's something here that she probably didn't like. Queen a4. If you go here, it's simple. Rook c8 hitting you here and then here. So queen a4. Ooh, and then rook c8. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Impressive, even. So now maybe knight e5 anyway. Knight e5 or knight c5 look plausible here. Okay. Well, this is a live position. It's interesting. I think Prokoshin will play one of these moves. Alice has obviously turned this into a good bishop by now. Very interesting and purposeful play from her, and she's willing to play, you know, a somewhat simpler technical position here, but still just, yeah, she's playing well, and the game goes on that way. See what happens with Fabi. A6, queen h5. I thought he would play h5, so completely did not understand the point of the idea. Queen e8 from Ray. So now, if there's any bishop g5 plan, he just plays f6 in response. Trades queens, keeps his dark squared bishop, and black is probably better in the endgame with the extra pawn and the queenside stuff. Rook e1, rook d8. Huh, that's interesting. I guess it's kind of annoying to have this rook locked in. He might prefer to put this rook on d8. So he's kind of locked in here. And what's he playing for? Does he want to play c5? I guess Ray's playing for c5 and getting his rook off of this diagonal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, the main thing that can cause deflation in ratings, M. Norris, is people getting a rating that's somewhat accurate for them, then improving a ton while not changing their rating, and then playing games where they pull rating points away from other people. What can cause inflation, the main factor I think that causes inflation, is somebody gets old, but they still have a rating from 2000, but, I mean, you know, they still have a rating like 2000 or something like that, but they're 200 points weaker than they were when they got the rating. And then they give away those points and by continuing to play OTB. So if you want to inflate the rating system, then play a lot of games when you get old and less good. And if you want to deflate the rating system, study a ton, like go get a first rating and then go study a ton and then go back to OTB and take a bunch of rating points up. Exactly, M. Norris. I think now in the online era, you've got more people who are able to make incredible progress without affecting their FIDE ratings, just working online, and then they come back and pull a bunch of points. So yeah, I think that's what goes on. Let me recharge just a tiny bit. Danny always recommended sitting in a beanbag chair and eating Cheez-Its while watching chess. I'm gonna get myself some little cracker-like thingies here because I've been missing a lot of meals. You see Ray managing his time very professionally here, right? Like what we mentioned. Like Fabi got him with incredible opening prep, created a very unusual position. Not just you're responding to opening prep, but your opponent creates an unusual constellation, new pawn structure, new ideas, throwing something aggressive at you. This is where you feel under the most pressure to come up with great moves. And Ray has managed to keep up on the clock of all things. It's just amazing. That was very accidentally thoughtful of you, Nordovik, right? You are the good guy. Okay. And so we're mostly updated on all of our games here. Sam traded. Hey, he basically played the position I thought he would. But now he played d5. Whoa. But that's because I thought that Wesley would have played d4 with the knight on b1 instead of knight d2. Of course, developing also makes sense. But by not seizing the tension with d4, he's given Sam a chance to seize the tension with d5. And to fill you in on what this all means, I've got a special guest. Hey. All right. Nope, don't want to turn that off. Maybe I want to turn that off. There, that's good. I've got Kostya. And let's go with this one and make it small over here. Bring me up.
How's it going, everybody?
I'm working on the zooms just a little bit.
Oh, you might need headphones.
Really?
Yeah, usually, because otherwise my sound is going to be coming in like through your speakers.
Okay. I've tried turning on your sound. We'll see if that works.
Oh, sounds good? Oh, sounds good, then don't worry about it. But Jesse always has this issue because he doesn't use headphones, so when he hosts something, our audio is always actually terrible. Like, we got to fix it.
I see.
Like the Dojo Talks like 2 ago, I think, was it was not great. Yeah, which one? But anyway. Hey.
Greetings.
How's everyone doing? I haven't been following the games much because I was just I was like at the club just now, and yeah, I was like talking to like my superiors and stuff and getting some food. And usually we don't have, sometimes we have like the games on in the background, but not always. So I haven't really been keeping up.
But you were closer to the games than any of us. You were right there.
I was literally across the street. Yeah. Actually, if anyone like has questions about like the venue or anything, I'm be happy to give more info, because it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of like changes going on around here. How was the Super Swiss? Super Swiss was cool. It was held at St. Louis University, which is just a few blocks away. Really pretty campus. One of the things I like about St. Louis is like there's like a lot of old buildings and very old architecture, like churches and cathedrals and stuff. So it has that kind of like, I don't know, Roman, Greek cathedral feeling. Yeah, that tournament, actually we can talk about it in a bit. I did pretty well, actually. I really was thinking about the event. I don't have a lot of complaints about my games, but I finished with 5 out of 9. My performance rating was 2470, so pretty good.
Ooh.
And results-wise, I did really good. I lost 3 games, but they were all to GMs. And I drew 2 GMs. I drew with Theodoru and Akobian. Both are like almost 2600, basically, like super strong. And then I beat 1 GM. I beat Balaji, which was a wild game. And then I won 3 games against lower rated players, which is definitely good for me, because I often struggle against lower rated players. But I won 3 games, and I feel like relatively cleanly. Like they didn't have a ton of chances in those games.
Bravo, Kostya.
Yeah, so overall, actually, I was pretty happy about it. Of course, there was like some mistakes. There are definitely some bad moves I made, but honestly, like not a lot of like straight up blunders, which makes me feel like I blunder a lot. It's like, wow, I didn't really blunder too much this time. But yeah, still definitely some room for improvement for sure. I also feel like I got lucky in 1 or 2 games. Like my game against Theodora was interesting because it was like a very solid game, and I should have just had no problems. I wasn't really playing for the advantage. Like he knew the opening better than me. He was better prepared, but should have been able to like make an easy draw with white at least. But I kind of like was a bit lazy about it, and I walked myself into a slightly worse. Think about this: a slightly worse opposite color bishop endgame. Pure bishops, no other pieces. Where I'm up a pawn. A slightly worse, where I'm up a pawn. So that kind of tells you like,
that it was like probably a little tricky to play.
Yeah, it was tricky. His king was very active, and my pieces were very passive, and actually like it was lucky that it wasn't just winning, because he actually did have some potential winning ideas, but just tactically they concretely didn't work out. So like, but it's not like I went into that game like, oh, I already understood everything, that it's like gonna be an easy draw. So that game I definitely feel like I didn't play well, despite the result. But yeah, but he basically calculated for like, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes in like one position. And then essentially couldn't find anything, and then we like agreed to a draw like 2 moves later. And the whole time I was like, I wasn't even sure like what he's calculating. Really just like what is he thinking about?
Everything.
So yeah, that was the Super Swiss. Really strong tournament. I mean, there's a lot of grandmasters there. Yeah, anyways, back to the American Cup, which is also a very exciting tournament to follow. If anyone has questions about like the venue here or anything like that, because right now the St. Louis Chess Club, used to be one building, but they're expanding, so they're buying up a lot of space on their block. And across the street is the World Chess Hall of Fame, which has their own kind of very nice space and building. And they're actually playing in the World Chess Hall of Fame for anyone that's been to St. Louis. which is a bit unusual. Normally they're playing at the club upstairs,
Right.
or like next door. And this is the first time I think they're playing across the street. And yeah, I think the main reason why is just they're basically renovating a bunch of stuff. Like they normally have the broadcast in the basement. Now it's happening at like a house. So it's like they're moving all around. I think they're building like an entire new studio, entire new like tournament space.
Oh my goodness, it's booming.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's insane.
It's like
big investments.
renovations, yeah, all around. But in the meantime, it's like they have to kind of still run these events, like.
Are they in charge of St. Louis University's chess team somehow? Like, do they choose who the coach is for that team?
I'm not sure what the connection is. I imagine they have some kind of sponsorship or something. Mm-hmm. Because well, Ramirez was the coach and Akobian was like I don't know if he's like the backup coach, but both of them have like affiliation with the club, of course. So probably was some connection there.
Interesting.
But
would the playing venue at the Hall of Fame, would it qualify as adequate, or is it?
Yeah, actually, I was there last night for the player meeting. There was like a small little opening ceremony. All the players were there, and actually it's kind of funny. After I can tell you about the player meeting a bit, but after the player meeting, we were like, I just found this amazing. We're walking to like the opening dinner, and it's like 2 blocks away, and as we're waiting at like a light, it was like it's actually like one of the longest lights in St. Louis. It's like 90 seconds or something. So it's like quite a long red light. We're just waiting there. A car pulls over like to the side of us. We were only there for like, I don't know, 60 seconds. And then someone gets out and jumps and like grabs like a selfie with Hikaru and then gets back into the car. So clearly we're just there for like a second. This car drives by. He like recognizes Hikaru and like jumps out, gets a selfie with him, and then takes off. Just amazing. So the chess boom is real, David.
Yeah,
it's real. That's like that kind of stuff just usually doesn't happen. But yeah, I saw the venue and it's nice. It basically looks the exact same, except it's just in a different different building.
Okay. Very nice. Drive-by selfies. Drive-by selfies. Yeah. Yeah, so far Drittman, the chess boom has missed us. But we'll see.
Well, no, I mean I'm getting recognized all the time at tournaments.
Yeah, but
which is
at
great.
A chess tournament is different than on a street.
Oh, yeah. That well, has that happened? I have been recognized here in St. Louis, but like near the club, so there's lots of chess people around.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been recognized out in public.
Let me ask you about something. Are you qualified to teach me anything about the Ruy Lopez?
Qualified's kind of a, strong word. There might be some ideas, I know.
Okay. I'm looking at Wesley versus Shanky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so go to the position at move 13 after rook takes e3.
Okay. Yeah.
I expected Sam to take on c3.
Mm-hmm.
Under the impression that knight c3, bishop g4 would not be Wesley's choice.
Yeah, so he goes BC probably.
So I thought he would go BC. Then I thought Sam would go bishop e6.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought Wesley would trade and play d4 immediately to try and get control of the central tension.
Mm-hmm.
But if you trade on d4, there's some concern about the c file as black.
Yeah.
I think. Or that's what I was wondering. And so that's the position I was kind of looking at. And I was looking at, rook b2 or something like that for black. Maybe I should have looked at rook b5 immediately right there. Maybe that's the move I missed.
So you're wondering why Sam didn't go for this?
So here's what Sam went for instead. He played bishop e6 without trading on c3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've played some of the same moves I was considering, but in a different order, which really changes the meaning a lot, right? So so I want to know. So he plays bishop e6 without the trade on c3. And here I would have now expected Wesley to play d4. Even though Sam hasn't traded on c3, I would expect it to probably be the same move, d4. Mm-hmm. But Wesley finished development knight bd2, okay, which in general looks normal or fine or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, yeah, we often develop before breaking in the center, but specifically, Sam now trades and plays d5 first.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought d4 would really put a bit of pressure on Sam, so I'm not sure why things went this way.
Okay, I see. Sorry, I don't know how to turn off the sounds on the events page. I don't know if anyone knows. But I'm not like seeing a settings button. There's no settings button.
There's a little gear shift in the middle.
In the middle?
Middle bottom. And does it have sounds in it? Highlight moves, button, down,
I'll mute the
piece notation.
Tab. Very good. Thank you, folks. That's smart. Yeah, I don't see the gear button for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, it doesn't seem to have sounds on off as one of the options in it, so muting the tab is going to be effective.
Yeah. It might have like a sound. They have like a place where you can like choose like which theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, sound theme. You had it on default.
So you have to do that for the whole website then, right?
Yeah, I've done it on other pages, but I don't know on this page how to do it. Anyway, I muted it, so I think that's good. I didn't know you can mute tabs on Chrome, actually. That's amazing. So, learned something.
Nice.
Just never considered it.
Now let's hope that Jesse didn't know that.
What's that?
Now let's hope that Jesse didn't know that. I'll ask him if he knows. He can.
Yeah,
he can celebrate. Like when he made 2,700.
On me, right? Okay, so you're wondering why Wesley didn't play d4, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The game continues to be fascinating, by the way, because Wesley took on d5, which seems like exactly the move that Sam was kind of saying you can't do. Mm-hmm. Sam played knight d5. He retreats the rook. Sam doesn't take on c3. He plays knight f4.
Well, knight c3, there's just like queen c2. Yeah, just simple.
Mm-hmm.
Knight f4, queen a4.
Yeah.
So Sam up on the clock quite a bit, which is something. It's normally Wesley's very good, very well prepared.
Yeah, and he definitely was the one who picked today's opening, so to speak, right? So he had a time lead out of the opening, but then he had to think as well. He wasn't prepared. He wasn't prepared very far. I mean, by today's standards, I think he was thinking on his own at move 10. We're not very prepared.
Dang, I wish we could see the time that they had on the move, like when they made it.
You can.
It's just showing me like the. Oh wait, moves.
You can.
Okay, you can kind of see where they spent time. Okay, yeah.
You can exactly see it. If you mouse over it, it tells you how many minutes and seconds on each move.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so he spent 11 minutes on b4. b4. Yeah, he did play b4 kind of early. You would think normally they'd play like rook b8 first or something, but.
Right.
But they get a reasonable position. Yeah, I'd imagine both players probably out of book pretty soon around like move 11, move 12.
Yeah. So by their standard, it's not a ton of prep.
Yeah.
They're forced to make their own decisions. Obviously, there's even more exciting stuff going on now with Queen A4, but do you only if you know it? But do you have any insight as to like, you know, D4 versus D5 and who wants to play it here?
No, this kind of these structures, I'm definitely pretty clueless about.
Okay.
They just seem super complicated.
Okay. Well, then I guess we can just go to the live position and see what the fallout is. So Kostya points out, folks, that taking the pawn would just be straight up blunderous. So Sam goes knight f4. His e5 pawn looks pretty dead, and he's trying to argue that d3 is just as bad, but he may have overlooked this queen a4 move.
He just
Or
played
some
queen
detail around it.
d7.
Yeah. I'd figured out that queen d6, knight c4 was probably not right. And that was all I had.
But he only spent 3 minutes here, so it feels like he doesn't seem like he thinks he's in any particular trouble here.
Okay. I mean, it's also an almost forced move, so I think that's the other thing. Like, I think he got shocked. I think he may have gotten surprised, but didn't want to spend, 10 minutes on a forced move just because he was surprised.
Yeah. But what about, like...
Queen d6, knight c4, rook b5, c4.
What about queen d5?
Yeah, queen d5 looks okay too. I missed that completely.
I mean, he knows what he's doing, of course, but... It's certainly not obvious to me which one is better.
Okay, so by that standard, he played his move pretty fast then, if there was a real choice there.
I mean, it seems quick to me. Like, you're up 30 minutes on the clock. I mean, if you're... I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't prepared any apology videos yet.
Oh, what's that about? Apology video.
Yeah, apologies for things that I've said. I do think apologizing is an important thing to do. Just maybe more for other people than for me.
But you don't want to apologize too easily, Once you apologize, then you've kind of lost. People will always hold it over you. So you have to be very careful.
I'm joking. I think the best way to teach other people to apologize is to lead with your own apologies.
Oh, that's fair.
But yeah, Vartan I think disagreed with something with the player rankings.
Yeah. So you're just gonna release like a blanket apology?
No. What do you want me to change in my rankings, Vartan? Can you remind me? I was trying
That's
to...
one of our best episodes ever, by the way. Greatest players, man.
These episodes?
The greatest players one, that one was like... That one did great. That one people really liked.
I appreciate that you guys didn't put like any kind of clickbaiting or anything like that on it. You just said what it was.
Yeah. I mean, usually don't do clickbait. There was some clickbait on it, like in the thumbnail. Well, the thumbnail is like Magnus, and then it's like a question of whether he's the greatest or not.
He's not.
I mean, but it's like tempting the viewer because it's like asking like, oh, is he going to be number one or not?
That would be both boring and wrong if he were number one. That doesn't seem like clickbait.
No, but I'm saying the thumbnail was clickbait because it's not, it doesn't spoil the result.
All right, so Vartan is just mad about Philidor. Philidor was the greatest player of his age by a wide margin, and for 40 years, which is insane.
I think Philidor was like actually a perfectly reasonable pick given the criteria. I just feel like we disagreed whether like his opponents count essentially.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, he published his book and people had like 40 years to try and figure out and like, come up to his standard, and they couldn't. So he was good at executing as well as at theorizing, right?
Yeah. I mean, his achievements, like, to this day are being used in the opening, in the end game. Yeah. I remember coming to the same conclusion, like, when I was looking at his games, that he was just, easily 100 years ahead of his time. I mean, it's just like, it was insane.
Yeah. Right, so the people that dominated the first 5 years of CrossFit are not comparable to current elite athletes. Okay. Fair enough. They laid the groundwork that other people got better off of. I don't deny that people after him were better than him. But at the time, nobody was.
Yeah. The show was never about who would beat who in a match. If the question is like who beats who in a match, I think
it's Magnus.
You'd be very silly not to take Magnus, number one.
Yeah.
Right?
Really obvious.
And then you'd also just like, I'd put Caruana in there in my top 5 probably. It's like, if it's just about who you would take in a match, then it's just a very different list, of course. But
yeah.
I think the more interesting question was the one that we were doing, which was just comparing the players relative to the players around them at the time.
Right. Given the tools and the competition in their day and age, who was the best.
Yeah, which I think is just very fair, right? Because it's not about who learned from who, because the modern players are obviously just going to be stronger than the past because they learned from them, right? So it's not fair. Yeah. They got to study their games. But in terms of like who is actually, let's say who had more raw potential, raw energy, given the tools that they were able to work with.
I mean, depending on what element you favor most, you could come up with different, number ones and number twos and stuff. For example, like a very simple example would be, do you put more weight on how big the gap is between the best player and the second best player, or do you put more weight on how long they managed to dominate, right? That would be two examples of different criteria that could change your answer, right? So Fischer, I think you would agree there was a bigger gap between Fischer and Spassky than between Kasparov and Karpov, or Carlsen and Caruana, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Fischer had a bigger gap. So if you were valuing the gaps more, you would put Fischer ahead of them. And if you were valuing longevity more, right, duration of dominance, like how long you were at the top, then you would put somebody like Kasparov, who was number one for 20 years, instead of somebody who was number one for what? Fischer was number one for maybe 5 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So of course, if you go further back, you generally find longer periods of longevity because of the lack of competition, right? So you've got players like Steinitz who can win tournaments when they're 60, right? You've got Philidor, who was number one for 40 years, even way more than Kasparov could have done if he hadn't retired. Because he would have been surpassed by Carlsen within 10 years, even if he kept going all in, I think.
Yeah, within like even 5 years, yeah. A little more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Carlsen could have played with him within 5 years, but I think he would have still been ahead. But yeah, I mean, there was no way he was going to get to 40 years, right? So when you compare across times, there are some other factors that you can start to adjust for, which is, what's the competition like and how many people are they playing against and stuff like that. But the fundamentals are, what's the gap and how long did you play, right? So Fischer and Morphy are both players who had insane gaps, but a very, very short period of dominance. And that makes it, kind of anybody's choice how you weigh that compared to somebody like Kasparov or Botvinnik or Lasker, who hung around for a long time, but didn't have the same, didn't win like 10 games in a row or anything like that ever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all very subjective, which is why, it's odd to me that people are so up in arms about different opinions.
The most you can say is that the Philidor thing is harder to measure, and I would absolutely agree with you. But I mean, it's undisputed that he was the best player in the world for 40 years, maybe even a little bit longer. He was just sort of reluctant to take his teacher's mantle as best player in the world for a while. So, I mean, it's not... There's no way it's an insane choice. Like, you could say he should be number 2 or number 4, but there's nothing insane about it.
Yeah. And I mean, that is what we did, best player of their time. And that's what we called it. Like, we called it, like, the greatest. We didn't say, like, the best players of all time. We said the greatest.
Yeah.
And then we explained it at the top of the show exactly what we meant. But yeah, and his contributions, I mean, to this day, are being used.
It is partially a guess, right? But it's the best guess I can make, and it's an educated guess, and it's not... I mean, my alternative is to just not rank him as a guess. I mean, that doesn't seem like a great choice either. I think that he got left out of Kostya and Jesse's lists. Like, how could he not even be number 10? I mean, that's with being the best player in the world by that much.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I guess I felt like he was too much of a question mark. So I did think about ranking him and Greco as well. I mean, Greco basically had no one around him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Greco's opponents are playing like F6.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And even up to Morphy's age, he's got opponents who are playing like A6, H6 against him. Like, there was...
Yeah.
But he had some competition at least,
Right. No, Greco literally, he's like a time traveler from like today that goes back in time with like just a little bit of like opening theory and like tactics and just like obliterates everyone.
Yeah, I mean, you could send Nordovic back, right? And he would just, oh my lord, he would be the world champion, just an absolute time bomb.
Could you imagine? You could have been great, Nordovic. You were just born 400 years ago.
Yeah. But
yeah, actually, it should be said, like, every time I look through Greco's games, there's always these like asterisks, like, this might have been an analysis. And yeah, I feel like, I mean, I was looking at some of his games, and yeah, they do seem so nice that they could simply be composed. I don't think that's like such a crazy thing.
Right, it's like he's sort of like illustrating or setting up combinations.
Yeah, because there's games even like much later. Like, there's a very famous game, I think, between Anderson and Max Lange that features just like this amazing combination. But I feel like people keep saying like it wasn't like an actually played game. It's just something they analyzed, like a variation. Which, yeah, it's not it's not as good obviously as playing a real game.
The like immortal back rank mate combination?
Oh, I've probably seen it.
I think it's like Adams versus Torre or somebody like that.
Oh, with white, right? Like the Queen G4,
Queen G4, C4, C7.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah, that one makes me spin every time.
Yeah. Some people think that game was composed.
Mm-hmm.
So there are discussions like that about some of the more amazing games from the old times.
Or it's like I think what happens a lot of times is the game is real, but then someone resigns or there's a different finish, and then they switch it out with like the nicest finish they could find. Yeah, like actually even like the Immortal game I was just reading today, like apparently it didn't finish with the mate, or there's some reports that like the guy resigned and then Anderson demonstrated like the queen f6 check, bishop e7 mate later. And so, and that was like such a bummer to me. Like imagine if that game ended without the mate, we would 100% rank it lower. Just wouldn't have that like that effect.
Maybe I would try and rank it the same because you know he saw it and it was the point.
Yeah, but like I mean, because the problem is you wouldn't necessarily see it, you know, like if it wasn't in the game, like if it's not included. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't know. I've been thinking about. I feel like that's just part of the times, you know. All right, so some games were made up. All right, whatever. All right, there's no FIDE back then. It was just the unofficial. And yeah, like the creative achievement of coming up with a combination is, you know, as essentially these were the first kind of like composers in a way. Exactly. Arranged brilliancies. You know, what's the problem? They had no money back then. Yeah, no, and back then actually they like if you wanted a world championship match to happen, someone would just have to fund it and there have to be interest. Right? So, hey, if you gotta, you know, spruce up a couple finishes to make it happen.
To find a sponsor. Yeah.
It's a great question, actually. Who did Philidor learn from?
Deschapelle, of course.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Deschapelle was also good.
He was the best player in the world before Philidor was. Of course, he was good. I checked on all these people before making my rankings. Yes, Dripman. That was one of the big revelations of our show. I have a recency bias from hanging out with Philidor too much. From researching it. It's not like I haven't spent my time immersed in Carlsen's games. I've spent more time on Carlsen's games than on Philidor's games. There aren't that many games of his, unfortunately. Which added to the guesswork aspect.
Yeah, the other thing I think we got criticism for was me and Jesse ranking Carlsen above Kasparov.
No, not last week,
he?
Vartan, but maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I think that criticism is warranted. Like, I can't, like, I thought about it a lot, and I just can't understand Carlsen over Kasparov. I just don't see what the metric or reason would be.
Wait, but you put Carlsen at 5, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, so you did rank Kasparov higher. Yeah, I mean, it was, for me, it was like what you said. I mean, Kasparov was #1 longer, but I felt like Carlsen's gap is larger and in a tougher time, being like the modern era where like the engine is like the great equalizer and this whole thing. So that was kind of my thinking. And also like, I don't know if this is a great argument, but I generally feel like people are split 50-50 on this, and Carlsen's Comet is still going. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, maybe at this moment in time, maybe it's a little bit early to say he's, you know, the greatest ever, but like,
yeah, it's at least 7 years premature.
But only if that's the only metric. It's just,
yeah, but I think like, you know, I think the gap is pretty comparable, so he would have to match him in years.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it is. I feel like there's just more competition. Not that there wasn't, like, I mean, against like Kasparov, like, geez Louise, but
The number, the quantity of competition is always growing, right? There's always more and more competition, right? So in a sense, if you're the greatest of a certain era, you're always the greatest of a bigger pool of players. That's always the case. But I don't think in 10 years it's so dramatic. And also, if you use that always as the tiebreak, then every older player would sort of lose out.
Well, it depends on, like, yeah, if it kind of keeps up, like, in terms of the dominance. Like, because I'm not comparing Kasparov to, like, any of the number ones between him and Carlsen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though they're like amazing, but yeah, they just weren't dominant for very long. But Magnus, like, it's 2800, you know, gets number one like 2012, 2013, 2011, and then you know, stays there, reaches a new peak rating, like 30 points above Kasparov.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the meantime, it's like there's multiple 2800s, but no one can, like, stay above 2800. In fact, right now, like, he might be the only one. I don't know, Ding or someone might be like 2804.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the crazy thing
know,
is, Kostya, I think we've been in a period of rating deflation. That's why there's no one else over 2800 right now. It's been a period of rating deflation. And Magnus is also, like, a few points off his peak, but I think he's playing basically at sort of peak levels. It's just that the ratings have deflated by 10 or 15 points, 20 points.
Yeah. So, yeah, to me it just seems like, okay, it's just harder to be dominant. I mean, with all due respect to, you know, the great Kasparov, I feel like he probably had an advantage in terms of, like, resources and teams and stuff, computers. Not that he doesn't deserve those things. I feel like he was one of the first players to, like, really take it seriously and just put a ton of effort into it. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it takes a lot more today. Not a lot more, but it takes
Magnus
more.
has always had a good team too.
Yeah, but now, like, everyone has teams and everyone has the best engines and all this stuff.
Well, I don't know if everyone has a team like Magnus. I think most players would have a second, but not necessarily a team of 5.
Yeah, maybe not, like, as developed a team.
Yeah.
But once they get to, like, the world championship level, then they start, like Fabi had multiple people on his team.
But a lot of times they build a team for the world championship. Like, they may reach the candidates with a second, maybe bring on a second person to help them through the candidates, and then maybe add, you know, another 2 people and have a 4 or 5 person team like Magnus for the world championship specifically. But Magnus has, like, a framework that he's been working in for like 13 years or something. So he's ahead on that a little bit, I think.
Well, yeah, I think he is very smart for doing that. I bet Vichy had something similar for a while.
Right. But the crazy thing that's always hard to remember is that there were no other GMs in India to be his seconds at first.
Oh, yeah, at first.
Right? Just crazy.
But, okay, I mean, I don't know who was his first seconds, but I'm sure, I mean, he started hiring Europeans and stuff.
Well, he definitely worked with Peter Heine Nielsen, right? Nielsen's been on both his team and Carlsen's team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Peter, maybe, like, most successful second of all time. He has, like, I don't know, 7 world championships or something. He has, like, some ridiculous.
Yeah. And then he had Wojtaszek on his team for sure at some point as well.
Yeah.
Who then
Vichy's team
accidentally became 2,700 by spending time with Vichy. It's like, I'm just trying to support this other guy and do opening analysis. Oh shoot, I'm 2,740 now.
I don't know if it was an accident. No, you know the story on that. I'm pretty sure Vichy played Wojtaszek in like a Bundesliga or something, and was very impressed with his preparation and just asked him to join the team. And at the time, he was probably, I don't know, 2,600 or maybe even lower. But yeah, their team was Peter Heine, Wojtaszek, Kazim Zanov, and Ganguly as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea, Thors. Would you want to be the moderator or host of that? I would even sit out the episode, Kostya. I will submit 5 games for Jesse to look at, and then he evaluates whether or not they're as good as Morphe's best 5 games.
Dude, that'd be a fun show.
Yeah.
I think your games are better.
Thank
Your
you.
game against
Thank God.
Which game comes to mind? Your game against Bogner, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Sick.
Yeah. I've got a dozen games like that.
Yeah. No. I think that's a great show. I would love to see that. I think that would just be fun. I've like totally rediscovered my love for classics this week.
Yeah. Jesse will definitely know which games are which, and he may be biased. That's why we have Kostya as a moderator to gently oversee things.
Maybe we can just let chat decide. Just let people vote. So I don't know if I can be a fair judge. Nor do
I can play blitz games with Dritman at Rook Oz to replicate games that look more like Morphe. And Thor's whole plan is that Jesse will be biased, yeah. But see, then on the other hand, like I played a game against Schulman, right? Like my one technical game, and I don't have many, right? But I played this technical game against Schulman. Like there's no way Morphe could have ever played it. I mean, I'm sorry. You know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I do think, I think Morphe I would give him a lot higher rating than 2100. I feel like, I mean, his games are, you know, like that, like Queen A3 game.
Queen D3?
There's Queen D3, but there's also a game where White's castled queenside with a pawn on B2, and he goes Queen A3, and it's like a queen sack, and it's like super strong.
Yeah.
But like, you know, though, like the blindfold simul's and stuff. I mean, you got to be pretty strong to do that. Bird Morphe, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Yeah, he spanked Bird a lot. Oh man. Exactly. Rook takes F2. Yeah. Man with head of dog knows their Morphe very well. Rook takes F2, like double exclam.
Yeah.
Distracting the bishop from E3 along the third rank, and then the queen goes from like H3 to A3, and it's like this crushing.
Yeah, that's one of the sickest games ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That should be on Jesse's list for Friday's show.
Hey, Sam's up an outside pass pawn. What's happening to Wesley?
What is going on? By the way, someone made a really good point in chat,
95.
David. The time control for this event is 90 plus 30. There's no second time control. And that's probably not a time control that like all the top players have played.
Yeah, they've made it standard for us, the plebes, but super tournaments have generally maintained the second time control.
Yeah, I don't remember what they did last year. It might have been 90-30. But generally the St. Louis, they do 2 time controls for their like classical events. So yeah, Wesley's definitely someone who I don't think plays a lot of 90-30 in his events, you know. So he might be kind of feeling like he's supposed to get more time at move 40.
He has knight c4 e5 here, but he's thinking, is there any... I'm just playing a move, folks, to just have a look at what's happening here.
Yeah, it's really unclear position. Yeah, 4-hour games are probably like a 60 move game will last 4 hours if both players use all their time.
Any chance he wants to go rook a4?
Yeah, rook a4 seems playable on knight c4.
Well, at least this position can't be worse for black after we trade queens here. Black's cleaned up the pawn structure. Oh, nice. And how have you done with the Karo Vartan? I hope I don't have to apologize for that video. Yeah, by now rook a2 would be better, but I played rook a2 Merles to keep white from putting a knight on e5. I was trying to keep white from putting this one here. Though I suppose white could still, you know, venture into this.
Well, exciting news. We got some endgame arenas coming up tomorrow.
Ooh, nice.
I'm gonna add everyone real quick. But yeah, there'll be we're gonna have some endgame arenas for all levels tomorrow at 2 times, 10 a.m. Central European time and then 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Holy moly, Kostya, this game's getting hot right now. Because
yeah.
Wesley played g3 instead of knight c4. And, okay, it could cool down with knight g6. It could cool down. But it could also go something like knight d3, knight c4, you know, rook d5 or knight f2 or who knows what, right?
Wow, yeah, it's so tactical now.
Or even
knight
like
d3 feels critical.
Or even like knight d3, knight c4, rook f3, right? Queen f3, knight e1. I mean,
Oof.
You could go absolutely bonkers here.
Yeah. I would start with knight d3, knight c4, rook d5. If I can make that
Rook
work.
d5 looks really solid, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 95, 95, 95, 95. Rook d5. Feels like white's just trying to bail to a draw there. Which may be the case. I haven't even looked at knight g5 yet in the mix. Maybe does nothing after g6. And rook d3, says Falk. Whew. That's vicious. Honestly, I don't see how black doesn't lose to this. I don't mean for the whole position, folks, just for this one variation. Whoa. That looks like a knockout, Falk. So right here, rook d3 would end him? Okay. Knight c4. Moves other than rook d5. Rook f3. Knight a5. Oh, wait. Queen A8 refutes any of these tactics. Really, really, completely. Yeah, gotcha, Ken. So right here, knight e1. Rook here, knight check. King here, and then maybe like rook a1. Seems like white should win with queen c6. Okay. Shanky in the tank.
Yeah, he's going to be calculating here. Oh, knight d5 plate. Never mind. He's done.
He's done.
Knight d5.
Threatening knight c3, I guess, at this point. Knight e5 would be the basic answer for white.
Yeah.
Knight c4 could be a candidate move, but my instinct is knight c4, knight c3 won't be bueno.
Right.
Uh-oh, Vartan. You liked it too much. You liked it too much.
He takes on e5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, playing.
Takes. What does he want? Because knight f4 I don't think works. I think white grabs queen takes a5.
Right. Rook f6, knight e4. Rook on a5 is not defended. Pawns are split like crazy. We can each choose on our own who we're rooting for, Joel. It's an individual choice.
We're rooting for Sam. That was super nice. It's hard to root against. But come on, Sam is closer to the... He's a unicorn.
Yeah. I mean, I root for Sam. I'm not going to prescribe for anybody else.
Yeah, sure. But I think that's what Joel was asking. Who are we rooting for?
But that made it sound like Joel has to root forever. You and I root.
Oh, no. Joel, don't worry about Joel. Agreeing with you for the sake of agreeing. Don't worry.
Is that unlikely to happen?
Yeah. Joel's got his own opinions. Sure, he's got no issues rooting for whoever.
Rook a3. Good move, Sam. Impressive reservoir of time on Sam's clock, I gotta say. I would be absolutely freaking out down to a minute.
Yeah, Sam's like playing. He's like trying to blitz Wesley. He's like not tanky. I thought he did pretty well in that Armageddon thing. I don't know how much you followed it.
I saw the last day's matches live. His matches with Tang and So.
Mm-hmm.
On the last day, seemed like he very clearly outclassed Tang and very clearly got outclassed by Wesley. That's
yeah, he also beat Eric Hansen, I think, earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was pretty impressive for like OTB blitz.
Yeah. By the way, Falk, I think your suggestion of rook f5, queen e6, rook e6, knight c3 is totally reasonable. That would be a playable endgame. I think against rook f5, white might keep the tension with queen d4. And it could have been a possible move. Sam's move also looks good to me now that I see it. I hadn't considered it before he played it. Knight e4 now, they're saying. Okay. Knight e4 now.
Interesting. I just set up a prediction, by the way, for this game. If anyone wants to Bet some, whoops, dojo gold.
Yeah, knight e4, and if rook f5 also again queen d4. Seems good for white. What else might the shank intend after knight e4? Maybe queen c6. This game's fascinating. Let me just bounce around for a second. I had a couple other games. We had our eye on 4 different games.
Yeah.
So we had Zatonsky versus Paikidze, which is an IQP. Paikidze transferred the queen to g6. This game they're playing quite slowly.
Oh boy. Big time trouble addicts, these two.
Yeah.
Especially Anna. She's like, oh man. Are you down to 20 minutes here? Oh, I see. Rook a2, rook c2. Okay, that wasn't easy.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
once you
boy.
allow queen f6, it's not like, I mean, there weren't 1,000 choices.
Fair, that's true.
But she was already tanky in the opening. You can look, she thought on her second and then again on her third moves, even after thinking on her second move. Like, it was just straight to
Oh, okay. This was a very, I see. Yeah, this was a controversial opening. This one, d4, c5, e3.
Yeah. She
Interesting.
declined. She declined Black's sort of mild positional gambit.
And a 6, knight f3, d5. Right. So yeah, it seems like Anna was kind of improvising from the opening. Although I feel like she got a very reasonable position. Like this isolated queen pawn with a3 and a5 inserted, like that definitely favors white. Black would rather have a pawn on a6.
Yeah, the a5 move is when Zatonsky committed to this and got her knight there. But it's reminiscent of, there's a line in the Queen's Gambit Accepted, I think, right? Where white plays a4 and black gets the knight on b4.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know about knight b5. My instinct would be, I guess she was worried about d4. But I definitely want to try to play b3, bishop b2. But d4, there's knight a4, so feels like maybe b3, bishop b2 should have happened earlier.
Yeah, so let me see where you're thinking. a3, a5, cd, ed. Well, I mean, bishop e2 and castles have to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, instead of knight b5, maybe b3 there.
And h6 was surely not a good move by black either.
h6 I don't get.
Yeah, just complete wasted move. It can only get in the way of your own queen and rook if you lift pieces for a kingside attack.
h6 I only feel like maybe she wanted bishop e6 and she's afraid of knight g5. I'm not really sure. But yeah, h6 feels like, yeah, too slow. Rook e8, I think a lot of good moves probably.
Yeah, black's got room, right? Rook e8, bishop f5,
Bishop a7,
bishop
yeah.
a7, queen d6. Lots of moves. That really surprised me, like a waiting move. And now bishop b2's just been played. Yeah, I mean, black could have the same position with the rook on e8, right?
Right.
But okay, that game's developing a bit slowly. We're told that knight e4 was played, and Shanklin found an idea against it, which was knight takes knight? Oh my god! Oh my god, Kostya.
I'm coming.
The
Knight takes
Shanklin
pawn?
calculation method. It's nothing
Oh.
super deep. It is just something that almost every human would miss.
Rook f5 coming, huh?
Yeah. It's a mix of like his question where he asks like, what if I just do what I want to do? But also the question that I always taught everyone around me, which is if you've got some moves you want to play, try them in different orders as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, very nice. No, Shanklin's a machine. He has Really good calculation.
That was sweet. I mean, simple but sweet.
Because he must have seen that from afar, of course. Like when he played knight d5, probably.
Yeah.
Rook a3, 94.
So rook a6, rook d5, rook a7, c5. He doesn't even have
now
to
he's
go
writing a
to-
book on rook endgame, so you'll have no problem holding this.
Yeah,
Sure.
this one's done. We can even stop watching. It's just dead after rook d5.
Rook d5 or rook c2?
Rook c2 looks good too. Rook c2, f4, rook b5. Sure.
Yeah. And then don't offer me a draw. There he goes.
I have a repetition anyway, as Kasparov once said to Shirov.
Really?
Yeah, Shirov once offered him a draw, and Gary was piqued. He was like, "Dude, I see that I have a repetition. Like, you can't offer me a draw when I have a repetition."
That's so funny.
I'm the boss. I'm the boss.
There he is.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Sam's on my wavelength, but your rook c2 is the same, but it just doesn't matter. For Sam, it's just like for Sam, it's just like, you know, he's probably looking at Wesley like, come on, let's go play something else.
Yeah. No, that's a
right.
good start for Sam. Solid draw with black, 54 minutes on his clock.
Yeah.
Not bad. Let's see. Do you want to make some picks for these matches?
Oh, I forgot to do that. I forgot to predict all the matches. Sure, let's do that. I'm just updating some of these positions real quick. It'll help me make better picks. Let me see what's happened here. Ray achieves his c5 move. Doesn't get the pawn trade, though. Wow. It's a barn burner of a game, too. Caruana versus Robson. I'm excited that there will be a nice long endgame between Alice Lee and Porkashian. Yeah, looking forward to that. I love me a good endgame. Okay, sure. Let's predict all the matches. There's a match, Nakamura versus Sevian. And if you want to know how the first game is going, Naka has the advantage in a rook endgame, but hasn't won yet.
Yeah, I'm seeing he's got a big time advantage too.
Yep.
Yeah, gotta take Naka, of course.
Okay.
Next.
Caruana Robson.
Caruana Robson. Wait, do you agree or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's classical chess. You can just pick them by ratings. I mean, I don't have any really fancy.
Yeah, Wesley just beat Sam in this Armageddon thing, right? So it's gonna be hard for like they're probably gonna go to the the playoff, and Wesley's probably gonna win. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, I'll take Fabi over Ray.
Yep.
I guess I'll take Wesley, but I'm rooting for Sam. I'll be happy to see if Sam wins.
I'm gonna root for Sam. I'm gonna root for Robson, of course, but they're outrated by a chunk. It's gonna be an uphill battle. That's what makes it so exciting if one of them happens to, you know, win a match, right? Last year was really exciting. Sevian won a match against Wesley So and became 2,700 at this very tournament. That was thrilling.
Yeah. Hey, we got a raid.
Oh, yeah.
Katie Learns.
Hey, Katie.
What's up,
how's it going?
Welcome. We're we're just in the middle of predicting all the first matches.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Hikaru. We're in agreement that Hikaru, Fabi, Wesley So, and I guess I'll take Levon. In my heart, Levon is just a 2,800 rated player.
Okay. Oh, they're playing this Queen's Gambit endgame, right? The bishop takes f6 and the exchange Queen's Gambit.
Right.
Their first game will be a draw or a real Shereshevsky moment. I think... All right, I'll disagree with you on this one. This is the only thing that's up in the air between us. I'll go with Dominguez.
Okay, cool.
He won a match against Aronian in this tournament last year, right? Right? I think.
Yeah, I think so. Or if he didn't, he was very close. I don't remember actually who ended up winning.
Yeah, I think he won a game. It was like the worst game Aronian played that I've ever seen on the white side of the Petrov. He was like winning out of the opening and then lost in 5 moves. Something like that. Okay.
Yeah, they had some really interesting games. They had one game where Levon, he plays this like bad Benoni. It actually like it starts with Rui Lopez, but it gets into like a Benoni structure.
Okay.
And it's like this just like terrible version for him. And then in the post-game interview afterwards, he was like, because actually what happened in the previous game, I think it was in their playoff. Lanier was like winning the previous game and then ended up messing it up with black and they drew. Next game, Lanier gets white and Levon plays this like super dubious setup against him. It's like a rapid game. Then afterwards, he says it's because Lanier like failed to win the previous game, so he felt he was tilted. So he decided to just give them this like weird kind of like, you know, sketchy position because now he has to like try to like destroy it with white. He has like this big space advantage, and then Levon ended up winning the game.
Whoa.
It was kind of a
the
psychological ploy, very much so. Yeah. Yeah, that was quite fascinating.
Caruana has promoted his H pawn into a real pawn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And Ray has promoted Fabi's central pawn into a captive.
Oh. Okay, and what about the women?
Yeah, so let's go over and predict on Group B. Nemtsova versus Tohir Genova.
I'll take that's a tough one. I'll probably take Begum on that one. I feel like she's pretty good at the speed chess.
Yep. I don't want to because again, picking against somebody I like, but yeah.
Katarina's great.
I'll just have to pick Tohir Genova because we're doing this horrible exercise where you make me predict that every single person I like loses. Thank you very much for this. Alice Lee versus Porkashian. I'll take Alice.
Yeah,
you can have Porkashian.
Alice is just very good.
Oh, okay, fine. We both get Alice. Paikidze against Satonsky. I will take Paikidze.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Although she's actually the underdog in terms of rating.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then I guess I have to explain why I didn't just pick according to ratings as normal. Stonsky is always out of time. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like watching her game being like, you can do it, you can do it. It's too much stress.
Yeah, she always talks about, I think, like her husband watching and being stressed out.
Jesus. Yeah, no kidding. You would not want to be married to a time trouble addict. Folks, do not marry like a pre-2022 Ray Robson. Do not marry somebody who's going to just kill you like that. Or if you do, you need to swear a solemn oath to never watch them play.
Yeah, just don't watch them live.
Never. You do not want to marry a time trouble addict. That is bad. You're better off with a cupcake addict. All right. So, Abrahamian Crush.
Yeah, this one's tough, but Irina's probably the favorite here.
Yeah. She won this tournament last year.
Yeah, last year she was really, really solid.
I mean, I would go so far as to say that Irina, like, I wouldn't just pick her for this match. I'll pick her for the whole tournament as well.
Yeah, you could. You could. Yeah, the format kind of suits her. Like, she's very solid and ton of experience. So if she loses a game, it's like not a big deal. But I don't remember last year actually if she even lost. I don't know if she lost any classical games. I don't think she did. But if anyone can stop her, it's Alice Lee.
Yeah, who tried twice last year. Got double eliminated just by Irina.
Yeah, or possibly Nazi. I feel like Nazi has had good results against Irina. I don't know if they're gonna play or not, if they both win or whatever, but could see Nazi winning that match as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alice Lee last year, she did really well in this tournament, and she basically like crushed everyone except Irina. She struggled big time.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because they actually just have a very similar style, but Irina is, of course, much more experienced.
I think Irina had one other tough match, which was against Tohir Genova, even though she prevailed. Right? She had one other tough match. I think it was that one.
You're probably right.
And then several very dominant matches. Like, I don't think she even played a tie-break game, much less, an elimination match. Look at the jokes in our chat. I don't want a divorce. I'm going to flag you. Or, don't offer me a divorce. Don't you see I have a perpetual here if I want it? Okay.
Wait, can we go to the Irina game real quick against Tata?
Sure. We weren't originally keeping up with it, but sure. You want to know if there's G5 trapping a piece?
Yeah, because she is definitely provoking this.
I guess F4.
The G5 F4?
Yeah.
Ah, smart.
Yep.
Oh, and so Shanklin officially a draw. Okay, let me pay out that prediction.
Yeah. Pawn sacrifice takes on a new meaning in this situation as well when you've got kids. I sacked a pawn to get the divorce, or to save the divorce, or yeah. All right, Falk just got some gold.
Nice.
All right, so we're going to cover over
IQP
the Shanklin
positions.
game maybe with this game here. And keep that up so we can go anywhere. All right, so...
Oh,
Man.
Sevian has the Irish on center. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh. So G5 F4 seemed pretty clear, and then that leaves Abrahamian with 8 minutes, and she's like hasn't made it to move 20 yet. She's almost there, but
Yeah. Yeah, Tata also not the best with time management. General. Oh yeah, this is tough. Just position like, yeah, full set of pieces. It's so hard. I mean, I play this time control a lot, the 90 plus 30. Like pretty much all my events these days are 90-30, and
Yeah.
I basically try to never get into time trouble.
Yeah,
as
we've
much as I
noticed.
can. Oh, okay. It's just so tough, and like if you do get into time trouble, like it's so hard to adjust once you're down to 20 minutes even, or like 30 minutes, even if you know you need to speed up sometimes. It's like it's really hard to shift into
yeah,
like,
that's
okay,
that
now we're
weird thing
calculating.
where you know how to play blitz and you know how to play classical chess, but very few people practice rapid time controls. So when you've got like 15 to 20 minutes, you don't exactly know what you're supposed to do with it.
Yeah, and it's also like it's really difficult to switch to blitz when you're playing on the 30-second increment because you're still recording your moves. It's not really blitz. In blitz, it's like you're not recording your moves. You start off just moving quickly. You get into a rhythm. You get into a pace. You're just used to it. Whereas like with 30-second increment, you've been lazily sipping coffee for like 75 minutes, and now you're
Yeah.
like you got to be super hyper focused and hyper aware. So it's really tough.
Jesus, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I made a good pick in this match.
Yeah, now, I mean, the position's so complicated. It's just like, I don't think white even has to do anything. Black will just, most players just collapse, like, with this little time. So many pieces on the board.
Yeah. Yeah. As Irina, you don't even have to push her off the edge. You just hang around near her and let her jump.
Yeah, knight g3 is a sick move, even if it's not objectively strongest or whatever. I'm sure it is, but it's like, okay, it's provoking g5, and now it's like possibly threatening all these like f4 ideas, knight h5s. Really, really tough. I mean, I don't know. I just think time pressure is just difficult on everyone. That's why I try to avoid it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fair enough. It's good of you. Reducing the number of heart attacks in the world.
Yeah, especially if people are watching my game.
Yeah. Yeah. Which we do, and it's fun to kick back and watch your games.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 95 is right, with the 5-second increment or 5-second delay. It's really, yeah, definitely not a lot of time. At least you can stop recording your moves once you're under 5 minutes. So it's a little bit easier to just focus on the game.
Tata's position is probably also objectively worse, in addition to being sort of confusing to play without time.
Yeah, like against that isolated queen pawn.
Yeah.
White's pawn on f3 just killing like so many of black's pieces. Like
Oh,
both
wait.
knights, bishop on d7.
Did you realize she's up that isolated queen pawn?
Oh, I didn't
did
realize
not.
an extra pawn. Fair enough. Yeah.
So that's why her position is so bad. White sacked a pawn for this. Probably
Right.
the e3 pawn.
Yeah.
Probably the e3 pawn. Crush probably
Yeah,
just
makes
didn't even
sense.
defend it. Let's see. That's why the bishop's over here. They're fighting over d4. But at some point she's going to play knight here, and that's going to be a bad move. She did it for the pawn. Man, what a lure. That was sick.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. And now her piece is misplaced. This rook, like, it feels like it should just go straight back to e8 and then knight back to e6. Right? She just needs to rearrange the stuff to how it was before she took the pawn.
Yeah, rook e5. I wonder why. I guess she was worried about like maybe some knight f5 stuff or something, but
You know, Maxiova, I do have benchmarks for that when I play classical chess, but I've never cared enough about blitz to think that through at all. I think that if I'm even looking at my clock, my benchmark is once I get down to a minute, I start playing like it's bullet instead of blitz. But often I don't notice that until I'm at 20 seconds.
yeah. For me, I just try to balance how much time I have with my opponent's time. So I don't really have benchmarks for like after 20 moves how much time I should have. The more time my opponent spends, the more time I allow myself to spend. But yeah, in general, I would say you just don't want to fall much lower than your opponent. And of course, the big thing is, you have to balance when you're going to spend time like trying to calculate and when you're just going to try to find like a quick move that makes sense.
Oh my god, that was an abysmal move.
Bishop c6.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what else? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
Tough position.
Yeah. Oof. Actually, Max, that wasn't quite right. I did once try to prepare a little bit for blitz and think about it a little bit, and I did come up with a rule for myself, which was that I wasn't allowed to think more than 10 seconds on any non-tactical move. So every sort of strategic or positional or developing kind of decision had to be under 10 seconds. And I could only spend more time than that on calculations. I think I allowed myself 30 seconds maximum twice per game for 2 calculations. And everything else should just sort of be more or less by hand. That was how I tried to streamline it. So instead of at a certain point you should have your time or use your time, it was kind of like try and make sure that most of your time is just used on 1 or 2 critical calculations that might decide the game, and everything else you just kind of play it.
Yeah, I think it's good. Good blitz practice.
All right, so here there's knight f5 or f4, knight h5, or the option for us to look at another game.
Yeah, let's see. So Caruana Robson, I think they're probably going to draw pretty soon.
Wow, let's see that. He traded queens. I wasn't sure if he would trade queens or just play knight takes b5 here. The knight's trapped, right? At the moment.
I mean, there's a rook d4.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the knight's not super comfortable.
Yeah, but I agree. It should be drawn somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll figure it out.
So what else? Alice Lee's game. I don't like h6 g5. I mean, I don't know if black had to do it or not, but the result is I don't like those pawns being advanced on the side where white has the pawn majority, and white can target the h6 pawn. Put a knight on f5, which is exactly what Alice did on her next 2 moves. In fact, she can already just directly win a pawn. Not that she will maybe want to do this, but bishop c5, pawn c5, rook d7, knight d7, rook d1, and then rook d6. Probably win a pawn. Oh no,
Bishop
I guess
c5 feels very tempting.
I guess black has rook e6. That does feel tempting?
Yeah, just to create that weakness. Even takes knight d6 looks interesting.
Okay, so another simple move would be rook a c1.
Yeah.
If we don't go for something concrete.
Well,
No,
she
he
takes on d7.
traded the rook.
Does she want a4?
She's just going to put the other rook on d1 now. She's doing the trade so
D1.
to keep black from organizing with rook e d8. So now she gets control of that d file, and she's got d5 and d6 to play with. It's a lot of pressure.
Nice.
I considered h4 as well, Merles, but h4, g4 didn't feel amazing to me just yet. So I felt like if that's what I want to do, it makes more sense to play bishop e3 first and maybe king f2 or maybe g4 for white, preparing h4 and really trying to hurt black over there. But the duel of the rooks to get activity is going to be more important than any of those moves first. Like a1 wants to be developed.
We should look at the Naka game.
Okay.
He's he put on his best Rubenstein shirt today.
Nice.
He is squeezing Sevi in here.
It's an e4, e5 line with c5. Great. Wow. What in the G takes f6 happened there?
Oh, that's where he took, huh? I mean, it is a rook end game. You are kind of more allowed to do this here.
What? Why? Double ace little pawns are terrible in rook endings.
Well, like against the 4, like 4 versus 3, this is considered like the most solid structure, surprisingly.
What?
Like if you had 4 pawns against 3.
Yeah. And nothing else.
Nothing else, just rooks. Yeah. Like this structure is considered better than if you just had 3 connected. Because it's a lot harder for white to make a pass pawn here. I guess there's fewer winning ideas.
This is better than
f7,
f7, g6, h5?
Yeah.
Must be in a single rook ending, not a double rook ending.
Oh,
yeah?
Well, yeah, single rook ending. Sorry,
rook ending?
That's fair. So I don't know about double rook, but yeah, my knowledge is like, like rook and 4 against rook and 3. The double pawns are very useful there.
Okay. My experiences in endgames with double rooks, these are very attackable weaknesses.
Yeah, with 2 rooks on the board, I think you have a very fair point. So
this looks like an insane choice.
But rook takes f6, or maybe he was worried about like e5 or something. I don't know. I mean, be one
because
reason,
it
right?
takes on rook d7.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see a potential fear there. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously I don't know what was right, but.
And if you're gonna take on c5, I would probably take with 1 rook instead of the d pawn. I'm just comparing my instincts. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right about any of this. It's just my.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is a handy idea for how to study, master games, classical games, modern games, whatever it might be, is like go to moves where they play something different than your instinct, or the move that you feel you would play. That can be a good way to figure out what part of a game you want to study.
Yeah, it's a great way to just go through games. Just play through the game and stop at moves that stick out to you. Everyone has that moment where it's like, oh, I would never play this move. Is this good? And then really try to spend your time on those moments. I think one of the best things about going through games.
All right, so king f2. So basically, Savian's going to try and hold the king off on the d file and tie the other rook to b2. Keep you from playing rook c4, making progress because b2 is hanging.
Well, I think white's king might be trying to go to like f4.
Okay.
It feels very unpleasant for black. I mean, he has a lot of double pawns. I said the king side double pawns are pretty solid, right? Because the king can defend them on g7. I didn't say anything about the queen side. Those are on their own. Those are ugly.
a4 could be a real move for white. I mean, I can understand wanting to improve the king position before undertaking action. But potentially you could just put your king on e3 or f4. I don't really care which, but let's improve the king a tiny bit more. And then the idea of playing a4. If the rook leaves the b file, then you'll take on c4. You play a4, the rook moves on the file, and then maybe you even play a5 and go rook a7. You're trying to distract the b rook, make it go eat the a pawn so that your other rook can take on c4. That's why I want my king on e3 to stop rook d2, actually, when I do this. A4, A5. So king E3, A4, A5, rook A7. That's what I'm thinking.
That's Shereshevsky right there. Yeah. Yeah, it looks super tough for black. It just feels like a squeeze. Even if objectively you might be holding, like, ugh. Just kind of forced to sit there.
If we really think about it, Chershevsky, like, I actually don't like the active rook on C7, Kostya.
What do you mean?
Well, let's say that rook were on H1.
Mm-hmm.
I would play king E2, rook D1, GG. And then just march my king to the C pawns.
No, yeah, that would be crushing. Yeah, if you trade one pair of rooks, put white's king on C3, yeah, it's just completely lost.
Yeah. Easiest
100%.
thing in the world, right? You could even put your king. You could even put your king on C1. That's another way to win. You know, it's like, obviously you never want to like run backwards with your king, but that would be winning as well. So it makes me wonder if there's not some way to extricate our active rook. It's almost stuck being active.
That's incredible. That's such an interesting point.
Like, my stupid active rook, how do I get it back?
It's a really nice winning technique, though. Just like, if white could just trade off one pair of rooks, it does start to feel a lot easier with all those weaknesses.
Yeah, and that may partly be because our king is so much closer. Like, if it took me a long time to play rook d1, and black could bring their king to e5 or something, then maybe rook d1 wouldn't be good anymore, because black would trade and go king f4, and maybe it wouldn't be... Maybe it wouldn't be as easy, I don't know.
Wait, can we quickly check out Levon's game against Dominguez? Dude, everyone's doing the Irish Pawn Center today. They're really feeling the spirit.
I think we've got material for multiple episodes of Endgame Sensei here.
Yeah, a lot of pole positions.
Yeah. A4.
Triple Freddy.
A4 is like an odd move to me.
So yeah, who's better and how?
Because if you leave the pawns on A5 and B5, you can always keep the area closed, right? Oh, except that white could play A4 and then get the rook to C5, and then you could get tied to a weakness. Okay. So A4 ensures that the only thing white could do would leave them with a weak A pawn. Okay, I get it. Who's trying to win?
Yeah, it's hard to say. White has rook g1 right now, which feels like...
Yeah, but you would say whoever has the g file, but they're not putting their rooks on the g file, evidently.
but black can't really do anything. White's king on f2 is very nice.
I mean, you could keep white from playing rook g1 at least, no?
Could have played rook g8 last move, yeah, exactly. But then I think your a4 is probably pretty annoying. Not right away, maybe b3 or something. Right.
Wow, the black rook can't even lift to attack the h pawn. The g file is really controlled by those Irish. Wow.
Yeah, rook g1, rook e8 is a good idea from Merles. Because if we trade rooks, then black is never worse and probably just winning, right? Because you can create a pass pawn with king d6 and c5.
Confirmed, it's winning.
Thank you. Okay. So yeah, rook g1, rook e8, rook g7, rook e7, rook g8, rook e8 could be a repetition.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see how white really does much here.
Ooh, you called two moves right there. Rook g1, rook e8.
Yeah, rook e8 blitzed, by the way, so...
Yeah. It went so fast, I didn't even see one move before the other. They, like, came together.
Yeah, same, yeah. Yeah, these triple pawns, honestly, like, they're not the worst.
They're controlling every entry point on both open files. It's insane.
They're controlling a lot of squares. Yeah, like
it's like an army of kings.
Black has no minor pieces to attack these pawns. No way to actually, like, you can give black an unlimited amount of moves, you know, as long as they don't hang the rook. And how are they going to attack a pawn?
All right, I've got a crazy winning plan for white, Kostya.
H5, H5. Mm-hmm.
H4, H5, H6,
Yeah.
and then rook G6. And then hope that you have to
plays
take it for
H4.
some reason.
Okay, take. Yeah. Wait, is there actually a threat here? H5, H6.
Because when I put rook G6, it's hard for you to have your king on E7 and your rook on E7, right? Like, if you played king E7 to defend the pawn, then I just play rook G7. That's simple.
Right.
Oh
Yeah,
my
black would go rook
god.
F7 in response.
What if that's the plan, Kostya?
I think, actually, there's some play. Like, if white can somehow freeze black's rook on F7, then the king transfers over to the queen side. You go king E3, king D3.
Yeah. There's a whole route. If black plays H5 themselves here, then white just has, you know, rook G6 to H6.
Right.
So I'm going to predict that Levon's winning this endgame.
This is a little unpleasant for a peasant.
Yeah.
Okay, rook E7. Logical.
Yeah. It's major
He's like,
grief.
well, I know what's coming, but I still have to play rook E7.
Major grief for a thief. He's about to be a coconut thief eventually. Yeah. Kostya, I should probably go in 5 minutes just because the kids' school was closed today and there's some
Okay.
there's like a play date that's going to be coming to an end or something. But oh my god, we've got all these Shereshevskys.
Yeah.
We got Alice. She went for knight d6, not rook d1. Man, she was just hating on Prokashyan's rook. Sends it to f8 first. Brutal. These games are so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I could take over. That's what people want.
Doesn't trading on c5 and rook d5 win the game here? It's not a very complicated question.
Oh, rook d5.
Oh, there's rook d8
yeah.
for black.
Looks really nice.
No, but you can probably win against that too. You trade the knights. You take c5. You try to put your rook on a5. There's the f5 weakness for your king. There's the h4 lever. I think that's a winning rook endgame.
You know, Alice has been playing nonstop. She played the Super Swiss. She played the Pro Chess League yesterday and crushed it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
H5 played, Kostya.
From Levon. Yeah.
Levon, he's
Okay,
going
what
for
else?
the rook g6 plan. I'm telling you,
He
it's
wants
gonna.
to say H4. Yeah. We might get 2 wins here from Levon and Hikaru.
So
2 rook
nasty.
endgames.
That's the endgame, Dritman. Slow ideas cannot be stopped in the endgame.
There's nothing worse than that feeling when like you think you're holding and then your opponent shows you like a very slow plan they're about to embark on.
They're like,
You're
I'm going to
like,
do this thing that takes 16 moves, and you're like, I can't get ready for it in 16 moves? I won't be ready?
Yeah. I mean, this H6 rook G6 is sick though. Even if it's like doesn't win. I mean, it's. But okay, I'm not totally convinced. What if black goes king D6, H6, and then C5?
Rook g6, right there.
Rook G6, yeah. Rook F7. There's rook G7.
Yep.
So.
But in fact, I would trade on c5 check probably just so your king can't go defend the rook.
Well, take first and then go rook G6.
No,
Or-
I'm playing rook g6, and if you go rook f7, I was planning check and then rook g7.
Gotcha.
Although
Yeah,
probably rook g7 just works as well, and then if you take the rook, white can take on c5 check.
Yeah, I don't like the C5. I don't think it's working because black is going to have 2 double D pawns if you take on D4.
Yeah.
And white will have triple F pawns. And everyone knows that 3 F pawns beat 2 D pawns. That's just
And almost all,
obvious.
and almost all king and pawn endings.
Yeah. So, ooh, this is tough. This is tough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get ready to take over, so I can hop on stream.
Cool.
You have to go.
Irina won a game. She played in the last position we saw f4 and knight h5.
Yeah, that seemed good.
Knight h5, knight d7, knight f5 here. Check. Pieces coming in. Oh god, another piece to g4. Bishop b6, and then bishop c5 check with a full extra piece. Yeah, clean knockout. King came to e3. Rook a7, preparing a4, a5. Plan probably. Check. King e2. All right, I gotta run. Dang. This is too fun. All these endgames. Ah. I think I'm going to just embrace the new endgame personality, Kostya. I think I'm going to just start playing Jesse openings.
Endgames are great. Endgames are deep and interesting and pretty.
Yeah. I think this is just my new calling. It's just to trade queens and pawns.
New phase.
A new phase in life. Just embrace it. Might as well embrace each phase.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day. I'm going to stop right here, and Kostya will be on in a second or in 10 seconds, one way or another.
Alrighty, folks. What's happening? Oh, Dominguez went for c5. Okay, let's back it up. We can check out a different game if you guys want, but this game seems really, really interesting. Ronian Dominguez Ronian's just such a good game player. So c5 shows how critical it is for black here. Takes king c6, pushing the king up. And h6, king takes c5. So yeah, rook g6 here would have been too early, because I think black can, well actually, no, if you take and go rook g7, stopping h6, white has time for f5. And I think you're losing here probably as black. So maybe rook g6 is possible, but rook f7 and then h6 anyway. So he starts with h6, so maybe he wants to go rook g7 right away without rook g6. King takes c5. Okay, rook g6 on the board. Let's go, Levon. I mean, you just can't resist such moves, even if it's not the best move in the position. I mean, if it wasn't the best move, he'd probably resist it, but like, how? You know, how? Rook g6. It's just too nice not to be played. Okay, chess is about art. Chess is about art. But yeah. So, question here is it going to be enough? That's not clear. Oh, camera's a little low. Excuse me. That's better. So rook g6 on the board. What if black pushed d4 instead of king c6? I'm not sure. One thing you have to watch out for is immediate rook d1. Just picking up the pawn. Maybe h6 anyway. And then if d3, then rook d1 again is possible. Might have been what he's afraid about. I'm not exactly sure. King c6 to me feels more logical because I think black wants to get the king active. Black wants to somehow limit the damage on the king side and just like run with the king too. Because this d pawn eventually white's king will just stop it, right? Like white's going h6, rook g7, black will have to do something with the rook, and then white's king is going to stop the d pawn easily. The problem with rook f7, black can go rook up, but rook g7 is coming. So rook g7 is white's next move here. The difference, of course, rook g7, black could still go king d6 and then hold like this, right? So that's why rook g6 first is important. So he's provoking rook f7, and then rook g7 doesn't let black hold the 7th rank anymore. So he'd have to move the rook. White takes here, and I don't know, either d4 or king c4. Really not easy, not simple at all. Let's say here. First instinct is that white is winning, just because it looks like white is ahead, but I wouldn't be 100% sure. Yeah, it's really not clear. Like, let's say here, I don't know, this push starting rook g8 here, and then how does white make progress? Because this takes some time. Black is just taking and going b4, right? So honestly, I think it's still very, very challenging. I'm really not sure what the evaluation is, but it's a fascinating endgame. I'm glad we get to watch this one. Yeah, triple isolated pawns for the win. Although technically I wouldn't, I guess you can call them isolated. For me, I don't really think of these pawns as isolated, although they are, because there's like a pawn in front of them. But yeah, I guess they are isolated. If there was a pawn here, we would call them backwards pawns. So probably fair to call them. Probably fair to call them isolated. So yeah, go Levon. Levon has been on a big bounce back. Like last year, he didn't do that well, but this year he won the WR Masters just recently, which was super strong. And now looks like he's in good shape here. Would I try to calculate it all out in the game? I mean, from white's point of view, I'm not really sure what else you... Because, okay, I think let's say with h4, with this whole plan, Aronian is definitely playing for the win. If he wanted to just make a draw, right, he would just keep the rook on c1, never allow black to play c5, and I don't think there's anything black could do. Yeah, so he's clearly playing for the win here. It seems like, I mean, he's just making all the natural moves, like rook g6 is a very clear way of making progress. And, okay, Dominguez thinking about whether he just wants to keep his rook on e7 and just give up the f-pawn. Which gives white 3 pass pawns immediately instead of 1. Yeah, we got rook g6 on the board. Let's see the Naka game. Yeah, Naka squeezing. He's still Akiba Rubinsteining it up. h4, king g6, h5 check. Ooh. Nice. So if king takes, then you can take on f7. You can also maybe go g4. Or David, are you saying rook a8 was the idea and then rook g8? That's pretty brutal. And then the king is just like, just going to get mated here. Let's play cooperative move king g6 and then g4, and it's that's resign time. Yeah, I think you might be right about the 2 rooks being pretty aggressive. So h5, king g7, rook a8. Now threatening this. And black goes h6. Wait. So why didn't he go... Why didn't he go h6 first? Oh, the king could come back. Yeah, he's not insane. So if takes rook a8, then king g7 back. He doesn't get his rook g8 idea. Right, when the king's on h5, then the rook has time to do this and this, and black can't stop it. Yeah. No, but he's squeezing this. Okay, black just played h6, and now black's king is like reduced even further. Another small advantage for white. I think he probably wins this game, and then for the thumbnail, I don't know if Hikaru's the thumbnail guy is watching, but Yeah, definitely just find a picture of Akiba Rubinstein and then just put Hikaru's face on top of that. Because I mean, this is this is just classic. Classic. That would be, I think that would be the obvious play. But it definitely looks very, very winning for white. G3, Rook H2, Rook H4. Come around this way and then just mate, for instance. A4 played. So A4 is committal because this pawn could be weak, but I think the idea is just to hit the rook and take on A6. So how does black even deal with this? This just might be game over. Well, I think it feels like there was probably a lot of ways for white to win this position. But this is pretty like this is pretty clear, I think. Let's see, he can go C5. He can still go C5. But then that just creates more weaknesses. Yeah, rook comes to C8. Black's rooks are kind of helpless. I guess there's rook B4 here still. Sure, this is good for white, but you can also, after C5, play A5, rook C6, rook B8, and you got this coming. So yeah, this just, and then any single rook endgame is probably just completely helpless for black. Probably. Yeah, Naka's I think maybe an underestimated endgame player when it comes to classical chess, but he has a lot of extremely nice endgame, not just rook endgames, but all kinds of bishop versus knight. I mean, actually, I remember like Naka's first, I think, real big tournament victory was like Waikanze many years ago, like 2011 or something, and in that tournament he like won a number of nice endgames. And back then, his reputation was basically just being like a King's Indian, you know, like dynamic attacking player. And then he won that tournament with like a number of nice, like technical squeezes. Carsten Mueller wrote a book on him. I did not know that. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, endgames are thought of as being very kind of boring and dry, but yeah, they're often extremely concrete and tricky, and it helps if you are a really good calculator, if you have really good calculation, if you can calculate quickly, because nowadays in the endgame you're usually going to be in time trouble, and it's also a phase of the game that really rewards resourcefulness. Which, of course, is a big strength of Naka. Oh, yeah, I've seen Fighting Chess with Hikaru. I didn't realize that was an endgame book. Nor I didn't know that he's apparently unhappy with it. He is, yeah, very fighting player, though. So, not an unfair title. Okay, Sevian down to 4 minutes. We can stick with this game, or we can... Oh, let's see. There's update here. So Aronian Dominguez, rook G6, king C4 play. So he gives up the F pawn. Now he goes rook B7. So there's the counterplay coming for black. He's just going to hold on to the B pawn and take, push B4, and try to get there on the queen side. Dang, this is sharp. This is really sharp. I guess, I mean, earlier we were thinking about whether white could really calculate all this. I don't know if that's really possible. To me, it felt more just like Aronian is, you know, he's playing for the win and he's just following the natural, like, progression. Like rook G1, rook G6, like that's only way to make progress. So that's what you got to do. And now Now, of course, it's very sharp. But yeah, clearly he believes in White's chances here. And I don't blame him. His f-pawn is very, very strong. So the obvious move would be rook e6, so that you can push f6 and then challenge Black's rook with rook e7 and then just do this kind of little worm action until the pawn promotes. So that would be kind of where I start in terms of the calculation. I don't know what's going on. So here, let's say king b3, f6 takes, rook e7. Kind of feels like very, very tricky. So rook b8, let's say f7, rook f8. You can also take on h7 here. f7's not forced. But yeah, very, very, very tricky. Rook b6 also possible for sure. Then I would consider f7 here, king g3, and then try to go after the rook. And yeah, it's just a total pure race. It's just like, yeah, pure race. I don't even know which, maybe d4. I don't, it's, oof, here. Well, this looks good. It's starting to look good for White. d2, we just take it. And it's like, all right, you can promote first, go ahead, but I will take my extra rook, no problem. Right, so here I think White wins. So if king g3 here, and then d2, and it still looks like White is ahead here. You can also promote first, probably. Normally, if you're promoting first with like queen and rook on the board, it's devastating. Just that first tempo, both kings open, it's really tough. I imagine it's good here for White. So yeah, Falk asks a really good question. Isn't it like a coin flip if you don't calculate this? I mean, that is kind of how it seems like. It does seem very double-edged. But okay, my feeling is intuitively, Levon thinks that he's better. And I feel like that's fair. I mean, his pawns are more advanced, right? So it does kind of feel like if you're making a pass pawn, you know, this is kind of how you play for a win. But I would agree that optically it does look risky. It does look risky. Yeah. But so far, I mean, so far it's looking good for White. Like I'm not really, obviously we're not going to be able to just analyze the position perfectly here, but it feels like time is on White's side here. This is just a very clear plan, and then White starts bringing the king in. Levon also has a lot of time to think, whereas Linier, he's down to 4 minutes, so he's just going to have to kind of play perfectly on intuition. And, well, it's going to be very, interesting to see what happens here. I have a lot of room here for something. I don't know what we can put in this space. It's like not easy to pull up the standings. Maybe I can try to do like a multi. Let me try to do a multi thing. All right, 1 second. Add some games to the view. What do you guys think about that? Whoa, I didn't realize somehow Ray got an extra pawn. Check this out, huh? Look at this, guys. This is a professional. This is a professional streamer right here. We got a main game, Aronian Dominguez. We got 2 other games that are live. You guys want to keep an eye on those? You got the boards, you got the clocks. Yeah, but Fabi somehow lost the pawn. I don't know how that happened exactly, but yeah, his position is not trivial. Is Fabi's? I mean, I would guess that it's drawn, but Black is an extra pawn, and famously the knight is kind of at least as good, if not stronger, than the bishop on in situations where the action is on one side of the board. So I don't know how good Ray's chances are here, but he definitely has some chances. So bravo, Ray. And Hikaru's still squeezing. I think he's winning today, which is pretty big. Fix the cam here. Rook e2 played. Okay, so Levon, he's going the reduce counterplay route. Interesting. So rook e2. So now I think his idea is that if Black goes rook f7, he shows the benefit of having 3 pawns stacked up on one file, which is that you can just give one up and you got 2 passed pawns ready to go. So you could just give that one up, play king g4, f5, and he still has a pawn that he can push. If d4, well, on d3, white's going rook d2, right? And how do you continue to make progress? So let's say white goes king g3, d3, rook d2. And you got to defend the pawn, and then white keeps pushing. So this is a nice little construction. I know Levon loves this stuff when his rook is kind of being protected. So rook e2 is interesting. I feel like this is a good way to kind of reduce white's risk a little bit. Because he must have been calculating this and not loving the complications. I mean, it was super complicated, but yeah. Rook g7 first. Yeah, it's tough. I see. Right, rook g7 looked less accurate. That's interesting. So rook g7 first to bring the king to d6, then go rook g6 was possible. So this one's hanging with check. That's actually very logical. It's counterintuitive. once you see it, it's kind of a logical idea. But you can kind of understand why he played rook g6 first. Was because he wanted to provoke rook f7, so he had rook g7 in for sure. It's interesting that rook g6 was also possible first, and then rook g7. Oops, on so here rook g7 first, and then rook g6. So which would force Black to go passive, and then maybe this is a better version for White, where now he can like activate his king. And then he still has rook g7 whenever he wants, and now Black is here. Black might be in trouble. Who knows? Okay, let me see the live position. So rook b6 played. I mean, Dominguez only has 4 minutes here. Rook b6 makes a lot of sense. And he's going after this one. Now White has some options. He can either start to just run the king up, which I think is maybe the most ambitious. He can also play rook e6 and offer a very unusual repetition with this and this. That would be wild. I wouldn't be mad if that's what happened, because that's just such an unusual way to repeat moves. Yeah, I think the hardest thing about that idea, Chess Lover, was that the reverse move order was also very tempting to go rook g6 first and then rook g7, right? So it's kind of hard to like, yeah, do the exact opposite of your idea for a different reason. Hey, Ringo. Okay, what's going on in the other game? So yeah, Fabi and Ray, I think they're going to play for a while. Ray's going to push that. Probably won't stick around to watch the end of that game unless it's like really, really interesting. And then Naka, oh, he brought his king back to e2. Now he just played g4, stopping f5. That seems very, very good. And yeah, I think he's enjoying this position very much and should probably win. Thanks for following, folks. I noticed some follows. Dr. Padfoot, Fox Averto, Silver Curses, Amray Vens, Stan March. Much appreciated. This is Dojo. We try to keep it pretty educational on here. Actually, folks, we have our 3-year stream anniversary coming up. You know, it's been 3 years that we started this channel officially. We started in March 2020. Arguably the most important thing worldwide that started in March of 2020. And yeah, what a wild ride it has been, huh? 3 years. 3 years of Dojo. That's kind of the idea, Dripman. I think we're gonna do it 2 weekends from today. So book your calendars. Make sure 2 weekends from today you're watching Twitch and you're watching us. I think we're gonna. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be like a full 72 hours, but I think we'll try to do like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. At least that's what I would want. Will there ever be any new Dojo Gold rewards? Yeah, for sure. This has been on my mind to kind of revamp at some point so that it's kind of more fun. But yeah, it's just on the to-do list. We're very busy these days. We've got a lot of stuff going on. A lot of great stuff though. I mean, we've been making a ton of progress. I feel like we've been improving the program a lot recently, which is cool, like making it a lot tighter. And yeah, the next step is to kind of polish up the Discord a bit, polish up the Twitch channel. But for sure, I feel like the rewards could be used much better. Good. I hope you guys are hoarding them because yeah, I think we will. But okay, the thing is, it's like, yeah, we just have to come up with some rewards that aren't, that don't use up resources. Right. So I'm thinking about rewards that are more like, like you get to vote on stuff. Like for instance, if we are doing a lesson or something or looking at some games, you guys could like vote and use your gold to choose like a specific opening or like choose like a topic or a player or something like that. But anyway, just ideas. Physical merch, that would be interesting. I wonder if we could do that. Let me keep an eye on the official broadcast. Looks like they're focusing on the Nakamura game. Oh, how are the women doing? Let me quickly check these games. Oh boy, this game looks crazy. Zatansky, Paikidze, they're both down to 3 minutes. Oh my god, this is just like, this is a blitz game. They've both got Rubinstein bishops aimed at the opponent's king. I mean, this is just like, what a wild position. Last move was rook takes pawn on e3. Holy moly. So yeah, don't take the rook if you're white because you just get mated. Bishop takes and then queen h5. Oof. Oh man, this is super sharp. Now black is threatening rook g3. it's very double-edged. It's I have no idea how to evaluate this position. Yeah, we did show the Rubinstein game. Yeah, actually I didn't mention this, but like that game was just the opposite of Rubinstein's, you know, style. Just straight up. It's just like the most non-Rubinstein game ever. Bishop c1. I don't know. I don't know. Let's think. Definitely looks tempting. Well, bishop on d5 is hanging. Yeah, I don't think it's like super clear. But bishop c1 feels very tempting. Bishop takes c4 played. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why not bishop c1. Bishop c1 though, it's a tough move to play, right? Because you have to be absolutely sure that it's winning because you're giving up all your pressure. Queen takes g7 was also possible, but then I think takes and rook e2 probably. And still very double-edged. I don't know, but looks like black has at least good play here. So she takes on c4. I don't know what the response would have been on bishop c1. Might have been very strong. It's really hard to say. But okay, bishop takes c4. Now things might be liquidating a bit. Black can take on c4, of course, but then queen takes c4. Rook takes g3. Yeah, seems okay for black if you just take on c4 and then go rook takes g3. Then white can maybe play queen e4 check to defend this one, but 5 really hard to judge. Queen b7, queen g6 or something. Okay, takes on the board. Rook takes g3. Yeah, now it feels like black is pretty safe here because black is just very active. I'm not sure if black is really winning though, just because it's not clear if there's necessarily a breakthrough like queen e4 check. F5, again this one, or queen b7. Oh, but there will be bishop takes f2. That could be something. Oh boy, hard to say. Hard to say. Yeah, takes f5 on the board. Queen b7 feels logical. You got to defend g2. Might as well tag the bishop. But then, yeah, you're very worried about bishop takes f2 here as white. And as black, you're definitely calculating that. But I'm not 100% sure if that's working for black. Like king takes, queen f4, king g1. If queen e3, king f1. And I don't quite see the mate there. Black should have, I think, at least a draw. I think pretty easily there should be a perpetual, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe black's playing for more here. I would definitely want to play for more. It feels like black is the one that's kind of better here. You got more pawns on the king side. Your king feels safer. Got all this pressure. Yeah, white's rook on a1 is like not doing much. Okay, queen b7 played with 9 seconds. Now, is there a knockout? Is there a knockout? Oh boy. This is so tough. I'm not even sure if queen takes b6 is a threat even, because you have like rook takes g2 and then there's a lot of counterplay. I think if I'm black here, yeah, it definitely feels like black has better chances, 100%. But it's so sharp. You know, you don't want to blunder. What's a blunder? Queen b7? It already felt like a very tough position for white. Yeah. Yeah, it's not really obvious why it's a blunder, but I'll take your word for it. I mean, it looks like the most logical move. Queen c6, queen b7. Maybe queen d5 was safer, but I don't know. I would be very hard pressed to say why immediately. Just maybe more central. But 1 minute for Nazi. Oh, can you go takes, queen e3 check, and then rook g4? Is this winning? It would be really hard for me to play this in a game, like, with no time. But this kind of looks winning, huh? I don't know if it's winning, but it looks winning. It just looks very winning. Okay, but queen g4 played. That's tough to go for if you're not 100% sure of the calculation. Queen g4. Oh, interesting. Okay, so she's saying you definitely... Whoa. All right, she's saying you definitely can't take the bishop, because then rook takes is just made in 2, basically. Either way you go. Bishop e5 played quickly. Queen takes b4. She was ready for it. Ooh, what a move. Queen b4, threatening bishop takes f2. Wow. She was ready for it. Dude, she blitzed that out. No, I don't think it's over. I mean, white just needs to move the queen somewhere. Okay, queen d7. That makes sense. Now the rook is hanging, f5 is hanging. I don't think bishop takes f2 is working anymore. King takes f2. Don't see the follow-up there. Black needs to find a move here and quick. You don't really want to play rook g5, but it's better than flagging. Yeah, rook g5 played. Oh, so if white play queen d5, then this bishop takes it. So bishop takes f2 was winning, huh? With this rook g5. That's very tough to find. Even like knowing there was a win, I'm like, ugh. Yeah, that's hard to play OTB. Looks like Naka game finished. Naka, I think, won, it seems. That looks like a position. Why did black resign there? Oh, okay, the pawn got to e5. Oh, that's why. Yeah, Naka game is over, if you guys can see that one, because white is threatening e6, and if the king goes to the back rank, then just rook b7, rook c8 check and promote. So the king can't stay in the 7th rank, can't stay in the 8th rank, so that's just over. So very nice game by Naka. I mean, very, very clean rook end game, gotta say. Now Sevin will have to win with white tomorrow. Okay, queen d5 played in this game. Yeah, Gary's on the live broadcast, by the way. just so you guys know, you know, if you want to go watch Gary, I'm not going to be super offended. I'll be a little hurt, but you know, the least you could do is keep this channel, you know, muted while you're listening to Gary. Oh, queen trade. Okay, probably both players are like happy with that. The situation gets to calm down a bit. Queen e4, very solid. Yeah, just forcing the trade. And now, not obvious that white is holding this. I mean, black's extra pawn is very, very useful here. But okay, this will probably be a long game. I think this endgame might be only starting here. It means healthy extra pawn for black. Let's see, what else do we got in the game? So Alice is 3 pawns up. So Alice winning, 100%. Just these 2 pawns are already enough. You don't even need the H pawn. But yeah, this is just game over. King f6, f5 is just completely lost. So good job, Alice. Alice winning. Ooh, this game is very crazy for how much time they have. Wow. Begum looks like she's about to break through. G5 was played, G6. This looks like game over. This like, well, not game over actually. Black has to give the exchange. Yeah, HG6 played. He's gonna take the rook. It's definitely not, it's probably not great. Yeah, the rooks get in, rook a8 coming. I don't think black is gonna have enough here. But yeah, this is looking good for Begum. So we might have a lot of decisive games today. We'll see. Oh, Levon game. Let's go back to Levon game. This one's still going. Levon has now equalized on time. He's down to 5 minutes. So king e3 he played in this position. And then black didn't take. He goes rook f6 going after the f pawn. Rook g2. Rook f8. Rook f8. Wow. Yeah, I'm not understanding any of these moves. Dang, these are... Huh. I wonder if he's waiting for this. Oh, okay, that is what happened. All right, so I do get it. King d4, then he takes. Now he's starting to take with check. Rook f2 played. What a strange endgame, guys. Honestly, I don't know. I think white's still the one that's better here because he's got king c5. He can take this pawn. Then, okay, you take the pawn, so what? Then what? Black's king and pawn on a4 are just very, very active. Gary's funny. Yasser also. So this one's still going. This one is still very much ongoing. Gary's doing a Danya impression. That's really funny. King a2. Nice. Offering a check. I don't think it will be accepted, at least not immediately. But on this, what does he want on king c5? Maybe he just wants to like stay. Oof, very, very tricky. All right, folks, I think I'm gonna head out here pretty soon. I'm actually working the tournament. I'm writing the article, so probably I'm gonna go get started on that, start writing up the report. And maybe I'll grab another snack as well. But yeah, I think we'll end the stream there. Thanks for hanging out. Not sure if we'll be back tomorrow or not. We'll see. But if not, we'll see you guys maybe Sunday or Monday. But yeah. Actually, I might be back tomorrow. I think I'll be around tomorrow. Sunday, I'm flying to Utah for a very exciting event that I think will be streamed. I don't know if they've announced it on Facebook. I haven't seen them announce anything on like Twitter or anything like that. But that'll be next week. I'm playing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm playing this kind of fun Chess 960 style event in person, but I think it's going to be on computers. But it'll be, it should be pretty fun. But yeah, that'll be next week. And then yeah, so hopefully I'll see you guys. Tomorrow. Let's definitely. Why don't we raid the St. Louis Chess Club, because their official stream is still ongoing. You guys can watch Yasser and Jovanka and Christian, and catch the end of the Gary interview. Oh, there it is. There's a link in the chat. Thank you, Dritman. So yeah, folks, that's the event I'm playing, the Timber Moose Chess 18. So check that out if you're interested. I'm super pumped for it. Okay, folks, have a good one.